Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is banished and has nowhere to go during the Chunin exam part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto was carrying Sasuke on his back and was on his way to Konoha. It wasn't an easy fight, but he was able to knock him out and was almost at the village. Naruto was hoping the village might treat him better now that he had saved their precious Uchiha. When he got to the gate, however, there were people already waiting there. Naruto saw their faces turn into frowns. He immediately heard people shouting things like the demon cripple the Uchiha, or I knew that boy was trouble all the while. Naruto's anger was rising. Naruto, you baka. What did you do? Yelled Sakura, furious with Naruto. Your mission was to bring back Sasuke, not beat him into submission. Yelled Ino, seeing Naruto drop Sasuke onto the ground. It's not my fault he wanted to fight. He wouldn't come back out of free will, so I had to take action, said Naruto, but realized that his words were falling on deaf ears. Let's get him while he's weak, said a villager, getting agreeing gestures from the others. Make him pay for what he's done, said another villager, moving towards Naruto. Stop it, said Hinata, running out of the crowd and getting in front of Naruto. What are you doing, Hinata? He hurt Sasuke, said Sakura, seeing Hinata scowl at her. Sasuke wanted to leave the village. Naruto-kun had to do whatever it took to get him back. I won't let you punish him for doing his job, said Hinata, extending her arms as a sign of protection. Demon lover. Yelled someone in the crowd as he threw a rock at Hinata. Hinata wasn't going to move and braced herself for the rock to hit. To her surprise, Naruto moved in front of Hinata and caught the rock. Don't you dare, said Naruto, crushing the rock in his hand, turning it into dust. Naruto-kun, said Hinata softly to herself. I won't allow you to hurt someone because they're protecting me. If you want my head, come take it, said Naruto, getting ready for the rush. The mob got 2 steps in before something stopped them. More specifically, a giant wall of sand. Gaara appeared behind Naruto and made a sand platform. That on. We need to get you out of here, said Gaara, giving Naruto his hand and helping onto the platform. Wait. What about Hinata? Asked Naruto, as he didn't want to leave her in front of an angry mob. Pankoro and Temari will help her. You need to get to the hospital, said Gaara, while Naruto nodded and they left the gate. Naruto was lucky enough to run into Shizune at the hospital. She took him to a room and gave him medical attention. Gaara guarded the door in case the people tried anything. Thanks to Shizune and Kyuubi, Naruto was back on his feet in no time. About that time Tsunade came through the door. Hey, Bachan. This wasn't exactly the welcome I had expected from my return, said Naruto, while Tsunade had a look of sadness. Naruto, I have some bad news, said Tsunade, still with a saddened expression. What do you mean? Asked Naruto, as Shizune was equally curious. I'm sorry Naruto, but by order of the council, you are to be exiled from Konoha, said Tsunade, seeing everyone in the room in shock. What? Exiled for what? Roughing up the Uchiha? Asked Naruto, angry at the utter stupidity of the council. You know how they are. They pamper and spoil the boy silly, bakas, said Tsunade, but Naruto was still in rage. Isn't there anything you can do? You're the Hokage for Kami's sake, said Naruto, clutching his fist. I did the best I could. They wanted to kill you, but I managed to convince them to banish you instead of that. The council has grown too powerful for me to stop them. You have until morning to leave. I'm sorry Naruto, said Tsunade, disappointed in herself for having this happen. Fine, if I am to leave then so be it, but tell the council this. They have made a grave mistake, said Naruto, walking out of the room. As he left, Gaara entered the room and looked at Tsunade. This is not right, said Gaara, getting a nod from Tsunade. My sensei allowed the council to have too much power. If I had fixed it, maybe this wouldn't have happened, said Tsunade, watching Gaara walk to the door. I'll have to report this back in Suna. I would expect them to end our alliance since Naruto is a friend there too, said Gaara, since people in Suna like Naruto when Gaara told them about him. Hopefully that will wake up the council. The chances seem slim though, said Tsunade, seeing Gaara nod before looking back at her. Take care of yourself Hokage-sama, said Gaara, walking out of the room and to inform his siblings of what had just happened. With Naruto was walking to his apartment, all the while seeing the people's smug look on their faces. It was obvious that his banishment had been heard throughout the village. Naruto ignored some taunts thrown his way and went to his apartment. When he got there, he was a little surprised to see Kakashi at his door. Why are you waiting for me Kakashi-sensei? Asked Naruto, walking up to his sensei. I wanted to check something out with you, Naruto, said Kakashi, his voice was a little skeptical. Then ask about it. In case you haven't heard, I've been banished. So, I need to get some things together, said Naruto, folding his arms, impatient. Naruto, started Kakashi, did you fight Sasuke because you wanted to? Oh for Kami's sake not you too, said Naruto getting annoyed. Sasuke has been unconscious since you brought him here to the village, and the council is in an uproar, and so they sent me here, said Kakashi, seeing Naruto's anger rising. I'm going to say this one more time. Sasuke didn't want to come back to Konoha, so I had to engage him. Now if you're done I have to pack, said Naruto, walking past Kakashi. Don't you turn your back on me, said Kakashi, putting a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Kakashi started to feel an evil chakra roll off Naruto. Naruto turned his head slowly to the left to look at Kakashi. His eyes were that of the Kyuubi. Take your hand off me, Kakashi, said Naruto in a deadly voice. Be very careful who you order, Naruto, said Kakashi hesitantly taking hand off Naruto. You should take your own advice, said Naruto, opening the door to his apartment and then shutting it behind him. Naruto started to pack some essentials into a backpack. He just got done when there was a knock at the door. He opened the door to a slightly out-of-breath Hinata. Is it true? Asked Hinata, eyes with hope. Did they really banish you? Yes, the Bakas really did it, said Naruto, seeing Hinata having a sad expression. This is awful. How can they just send you away after all that you've done? Asked Hinata, while Naruto shook his head. I don't know. Someone on the council wants me gone. And I bet it's for something beyond my control, said Naruto, looking away slightly. You mean the Kyuubi, don't you? Asked Hinata, seeing Naruto look at her with wide eyes. How do you know about that? Asked Naruto, seeing she was a little nervous. I heard some of the adults call you it. I asked my father about it and he told me that you were Kyuubi in human form. I was a little frightened. Then, there was that time I was getting bullied and you interfered. Do you remember? Asked Hinata, Naruto nodding at her. Yeah. I was walking around when I heard them talking down to you and you were crying, said Naruto, the thought making him angry. After you helped me, I thought, how could he be a demon? So I went to the Hokage and asked him. He was mad at my father for telling, but told me that you were merely the jailer of Kyuubi. That made more sense to me. And as we got older, I started to see that he was right and that you were a good person, despite the way you were treated, said Hinata, smiling at Naruto while also slightly blushing. Good old man Hokage. Even in death you're still doing good, thought Naruto, smiling to himself. But I guess I'm the only person who know this and embraces it. I'm sorry this has happened to you, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, looking at Naruto. It's not your fault, Hinata. I wish I knew this about you earlier. I would have been around you rather than Sakura. If it's any conciliation, Hinata, I think you're cute, said Naruto, seeing Hinata blush while blushing himself. Really? I like you too, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, while Naruto walked closer to her. How much do you like me? Asked Naruto, inching closer to Hinata, while she, surprisingly, did the same. More than you know, said Hinata in almost a whisper since they were an inch from each other. They moved their lips closer and closer to the other. Naruto was wondering how he had missed all this about Hinata. Hinata was begging herself not to faint. Then they felt the other's lips their own. They let themselves be pulled into the kiss's passion. Only after a while did they split from each other. Hinata then pulled Naruto into a hug. I wish you didn't have to go, said Hinata, feeling Naruto's arms around her pull. I promise you, said Naruto, lifting Hinata's chin, I will come back for you. I'll be waiting then, said Hinata, kissing him one last time. You should probably go. I don't want you to get jumped by some people who hate me, said Naruto, after pulling away from Hinata. Hinata nodded and left the room. Naruto decided to turn in early. He had a big day tomorrow. The next day, Naruto woke up, got dressed, and was out the door in record time. He wanted to be past the gate before any of the villagers could criticize him. He was surprised to see that no one was out yet and made it to the gate with no problems. What's your plan now? Asked Kyuubi, resting in the boy's mind. I don't know. I could probably go to Wave Country or go to Suna with Gaara, thought Naruto, going over the options in his head. He was pulled out of his thoughts when a group of Anbu appeared. The council couldn't settle for me being banished, could they? Said Naruto, getting himself ready. Naruto Uzumaki, you are coming with us. Outmaster wants to see you, said the leader of the group of four. I'm afraid I'll have to pass on his offer, said Naruto, taking off his backpack. It is not an option, said the leaders, as the group prepared to take Naruto. As they were about to fight, two figures appeared from the shadows. They both had on black cloaks with red clouds. Naruto knew them instantly as Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. Naruto is coming with us actually, said Itachi in his usual calm voice. If you interfere, we will kill you, said the leader, though he didn't want to fight these two. Well then, I guess you better get started, said Kisame, drawing Samehada. The two forces engage one another. All the while Naruto was just standing there. Let's get out of here while they're fighting, said Kyuubi, wanting to get far away from the fray. Naruto, however, just continued to stand there, watching the fight. More specifically, the Akatsuki. And was making a plan in his head. A plan that had a slim chance of working, but if it did, he could become strong enough to take down Konoha. He was brought out of his thinking when an Anbu's jutsu caught Kisame. His feet were stuck in a type of mud jutsu, and the Anbu was about to deliver the final blow. Naruto had to make a choice now, and he made it in an instant. Naruto pulled out a kunai and threw it right at the Anbu. It nailed him right between his eyes and fell to the ground dead. Kisame got himself free and decapitated another Anbu. Afterwards, Kisame gave Naruto a raised eyebrow before being joined by Itachi after dispatching the rest of the Anbu. "Would you help me, kid?" asked Kisame, as Itachi was now raising his eyebrow as well. "I want to talk to your boss." "I have a proposition for him," said Naruto, seeing both of the Akatsuki members look at one another. "Kid, what are you doing?" asked Kyuubi, as he was thinking that the kid had lost his mind. Itachi and Kisame turned to one another and started to discuss the situation. Meanwhile, Naruto was talking to Kyuubi. "Why are you wanting to talk to their boss? Have you forgotten that you are what they're after?" asked Kyuubi, stumped at the moves that his vessel was making. "Just trust me on this one." "I have a plan," thought Naruto, seeing Kyuubi reluctantly nod. "Come with us, Naruto," said Itachi finally after talking with Kisame. Naruto walked behind Itachi and Kisame as they left the land of fire. They kept walking until they made their way to aim. After waking through the drenched village, they came to a tall tower. They made their way to about the top when they came to a door. Inside, Naruto saw 7 other people with Akatsuki cloaks on. They were all giving him a look of curiousness. At the end of the room was a woman with blue hair with an origami flower in her hair. Next to her was a man with orange hair and 6 nose piercings. But the strangest quality about him was that his eyes were gray with circles around the pupil and outward. "Itachi, Kisame, what is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki doing here?" asked Pain, narrowing his eyes at Itachi. "He requested to see you. Says he has some sort of proposition," said Itachi, seeing Pain's eyes continue to narrow at him. "And you thought that gave him the right to see me?" said Pain, anger was building in his voice. "There is something else. When we went to capture him, another group of Anbu had come to take him. We engaged them and I got caught in a jutsu. As the enemy was about to kill me, the Jinchuriki took out the enemy. I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him," said Kisame, Pain's eyes widening along with everyone else. "Is this true, Itachi?" asked Pain, as all eyes fell on Itachi. "Yes, it is. Naruto saved Kisame," said Itachi, all the while Pain was thinking in his head. "Very well. What is your proposition, Naruto?" asked Pain, as Naruto moved closer to the man. "It involves me joining the Akatsuki," said Naruto, gaining mixed emotions from everyone in the room. "An interesting request. What's the downside?" asked Pain, as he knew it would come at a price. "You have to stop hunting and killing Jinchuriki," said Naruto, as he could tell a lot of the members were about to yell, but were stopped by Pain. "Naruto, we require the power of the Bijuu to bring peace," said Pain, trying to be diplomatic. "That is why I have an alternative. Have the Jinchuriki join the Akatsuki," said Naruto, hearing mumbles throughout the room. "How can this work?" asked Pain. "Think about it. My village just kicked me out because of what I am. The other villages threat their Jinchuriki the same way, I'm sure. We go to them, offer them a chance to do a little damage. I can probably increase your chances since I am a Jinchuriki," said Naruto, while some of the other members started to talk amongst themselves. "This would make things easier, but what about the ones that remain loyal?" asked Konan, as she knew there were some that still had respect in their villages. "We'll just do our best with them, but I won't force them into joining. We could even cut a deal with some of the villages they're in," said Naruto, seeing the Konan nod at him. "That seems fair, but to keep up our image we should keep them hidden until they're needed," said Pain, as he wanted to make sure that everyone knew the image of the Akatsuki as a fierce force. "I've got friends in Wave Country that can keep them safe and hidden," said Naruto, earning a smirk from Pain. "Impressive. I hereby initiate you into the Akatsuki. However, you are still a genin and need proper training. Itachi, train him in what you know. We won't make a move until 2 years' time, so I expect him to be powerful by that time," said Pain, as he ended the meeting. Itachi escorted Naruto to his room and aim. After Itachi left, Kyuubi talked to Naruto. "Well, what do you know? There is a brain in that skull of yours." "Nicely done, my vessel," said Kyuubi, impressed with how Naruto handled the situation. "Yeah, things have definitely played out in our favor. And it looks like I'm gonna get some real training done," thought Naruto, as he could wait to get to work. "You and I are gonna train together as well. With me and the Akatsuki training you, no one will be able to hold a candle to you," said Kyuubi, chuckling to himself. "For now, though, I need rest. Got a bid date tomorrow," thought Naruto, turning off the lights and going to bed. 2 years. 2 long years had passed since Naruto was banished from Konoha. Some of the people that had come into contact with Naruto or were helped by him were not happy in the least bit. Wave Country had cut off all trade with Konoha. Spring Country was also ticked to the point where they didn't want another Konoha shinobi on their land. If things weren't bad enough for Konoha, Kabuto snuck into Konoha a few days after Naruto brought back Sasuke and successfully got Sasuke to Orochimaru. Konoha was looking really bad and this did not bode well with the fire daimyo. He pretty much told them to get their act together or risk losing all future missions to another village. And so Tsunade sat at her desk, working on paperwork with a little bit of a sorrow. Things were a little down since Naruto left. She missed the Gaki, always barging in, calling her names, and wanting to be Hokage. He always brought a sort of brightness to the area. But those days were gone now. The thing that got her blood boiling wasn't just the council, but the fact that his friends didn't seem to care he was gone. She just couldn't believe there weren't more missing him. It was just her, Haruka, Jiraiya, the Konohamaru Corps. And Hinata. Haruka missed his adoptive son and favorite student and despised the council for its decision. Jiraiya had set up a part of his spy network to keep an eye out for any information on Naruto, but unfortunately there was none to report. Konohamaru and his teammates were sad that their boss had been expelled from the village. Hinata, well, she was a little heartbroken, but her moment that she spent with Naruto before he left was comforting her much. She took out a bottle of sake and took a swig before lying back in her chair. "Naruto," said Tsunade to herself, "I hope wherever you are, you're safe." Meanwhile in AIM things were looking pretty good. Somehow, they had gotten trading rights with Wave Country, so they were getting much better supplies than before. They gave thanks to their god and angel who watched over them. Underneath the city, the Akatsuki were training. Kisame, Haiden, and Deidara stood across from their training opponent. Naruto Uzumaki stood with a black short-sleeved shirt, black pants and black sandals. His hair had grown a little but not by much. Watching from a distance was Itachi, Sasori, and Kakuzu. For the first year of his training, Naruto worked with Itachi constantly, from ninjutsu to taijutsu to genjutsu. When he wasn't working with Itachi, he would spend training time with Kyuubi, or Kurama as he learned to call him. Naruto now possessed Kurama's power and had had plenty of time to manipulate it fully, though he was sure there were still some kinks to work out. Naruto then started to spar with the rest of the Akatsuki, though not with pain, considering he was taking care of AIM as its leader. And here Naruto stood, sparring once again with his new teammates' teachers. "Again," said Itachi, as Haiden and Kisame attacked from the front while Deidara maneuvered around to the right from Naruto. Haiden swung horizontal at Naruto, but Naruto ducked underneath of the scythe and maneuvered to punch him in the gut. As Haiden flew back, Kisame started to try and cut Naruto with Samehada as Naruto pulled out a kunai and blocked Samehada. Unfortunately, he couldn't hold off the raw-strength Kisame pressing on Samehada to overpower Naruto. Kisame pushed Naruto back as he charged once again. Naruto regained his standing and awaited Kisame's attack. Kisame then shot Samehada forward, tipped first like a lance. Naruto leapt into the air and landed onto one Samehada's flat sides. Kisame looked surprised as Naruto spun and kicked him in face, sending him flying. Naruto smirked at his handiwork, but panicked when he saw clay spiders attached to his body. He looked at Deidara, who smirked before forming a hand sign to explode his clay. The explosions kicked up dust and debris as Naruto disappeared in the confusion. There was stillness in the air as everyone waited for the dust to settle. When it did, only debris remained and Naruto's body was gone. The shadow clone. "The kid's gotten so much faster," said Deidara, looking around for the blonde Jinchuriki. He then heard movement behind him. He turned around to see Naruto dropping down in front of him. Deidara tried to jump away in order to keep the distance advantage, but was grabbed by the cloak by Naruto and flung to the ground. Naruto then did a slight leap in the air and brought now his leg over his stomach. Deidara gasped as the air was knocked out of him. Naruto then kicked him in his side and sent him over to Haiden and Kisame. The group of three got to their feet and looked at one another. Deidara created a bird to fly on, while Kisame and Haiden charged with their weapons in hand. Naruto gave a slight grin as he pulled out two kunai and charged to meet his targets. They were 2 feet away from each other when a wall of paper sheet separated the two. Haiden, Kisame, and Deidara calmed themselves as they rested their weapons down, and Deidara dispersed his bird, while Naruto put away his kunai. Conan reformed amongst the sheets of paper. "Ain-sama has called a meeting," said Conan, as the members nodded and before she started to walk upstairs. Naruto grabbed his Akatsuki cloak and made his way upstairs and smirked along with Haiden, Kisame, and Deidara. When they got to the top they found Pain sitting on his throne waiting for the other members. As members took their seat, Pain stood up from his chair. "Akatsuki, it is finally time to put our plan to bring about peace amongst the villages into action. Deidara, Sasori, go to Suna with Naruto and get Gaara. Take him to the base alive and then Naruto can negotiate with him. After that I will give you future orders," said Pain. See the members he referred to nod before leaving. "Good luck Naruto," said Itachi, while Naruto gave a mock salute. "Thanks Itachi-san," said Naruto, adjusting his Akatsuki cloak. "Wait Naruto, I have had something made to conceal your identity. We can't having go into combat with you face showing just in case Suna get backup from Konoha," said Pain, as Conan brought forth a white mask that had a skull design with red streaks coming down from the top down the eyes and to the sides of the jaw with a red cloud on the forehead. I like the skull design, but how is this supposed to keep my identity safe? My blonde hair isn't exactly common in most places, said Naruto, picking up the mask and looking it over. There's a genjutsu over the mask that will change your hair color to black. Go ahead, try it out and see, said Konan, actually sporting a small smile on her face. Naruto gave an unsure look as he put the mask on. When it was secure, Naruto groaned as he felt the genjutsu take over. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a figure with a skull face and black hair standing where he was. Not bad, don't you think? Asked Naruto, turning to look at the others. If you're done with modeling, let's try to get something done, said Pain, as each member left the room, but only Deidara, Sasori, and Naruto left out of the village. Konoha. A few days later, Tsunade was still at her desk looking over documents when a Konoha messenger burst through the door. Okizama, Suna's Kazekage has just been kidnapped, said the messenger, seeing Tsunade jump out of her chair. What? By who? Asked Tsunade, as she wondered who was strong enough to capture Gaara. Suna confirmed seeing men wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them. It's the Akatsuki, ma'am, said the messenger, seeing Tsunade grip her desk tightly enough to where it cracked. Let me Kakashi squad along with Might Guy's team and deploy them to find Suna's Kazekage and return him safely back to Suna, said Tsunade, seeing the messenger bow before leaving to gather the teams. So they're finally making their move, thought Tsunade, leaning back in her chair, looking out of the window. Akatsuki hideout. Gaara was not having a good day at this point. A blonde-headed Akatsuki member had infiltrated his village, and P approached him, and a battle ensued. Gaara was winning the battle and even took away one of his arms, but in the end he was knocked unconscious by the member. After that he didn't know what was happening, though now he could hear voices talking. You really roughed him up, Deidara, said a voice he couldn't yet identify. I should have done more. Look what he did to my arm, said Deidara, obviously the one he fought back in Suna. Don't worry about it, Kakuzu can probably fix you up with a new one, said the other voice once again. Both of you shut up, he's waking up, said a man with a deeper voice than the other two. Gaara woke up and found himself in a very large cave. He looked around and saw the people who were responsible for being here. They all wore Akatsuki cloaks, and he recognized the blonde man he had fought earlier, but he noticed a man with a hunchback and a piece of black cloth covering his face, and a man with black spiky hair and a mask over his face. Glad to see you're awake, said Naruto under disguise with his skull mask on. Don't screw around with me, you want to extract the Shikaku out of me, said Gaara, since he wasn't afraid to die at this point. We want the Shikaku's power, but how about we have a little chat first, said Naruto, sitting down next to a tied-up Gaara. I've got nothing to talk to you about, said Gaara spitefully at his captors. Not even for an old friend, Gaara, said Naruto, removing his mask and looking at the shocked expression of Gaara. Naruto, you're with the Akatsuki now? Asked Gaara as Naruto sat down in front of him. Allow me to explain. See, after my village kicked me out I was forced to find a new home. However, Anbu and the Akatsuki attacked me at the same time. I chose to aid the Akatsuki and asked them to see their leader. They agreed, and that is when I proposed that the Akatsuki should not be killing Jinchuriki, but rather they should recruit them. I'm sure you can guess by now that they agreed, and that's how we got here. So, what will you do now, Gaara? Asked Naruto, as Gaara was processing all of the information just thrown at him. I understand your choice in this plot, but I'm still surprised by it, said Gaara, as Naruto nodded at him. I can see why, since it was only a little while ago that we were playing predator and prey, and now we're supposed to work together. But we're getting off topic, what is your answer, Gaara? Asked Naruto, a serious look coming over his face. If you're sure that this will work, I don't see why I wouldn't help, but you still have people in your village that care about you, said Gaara as Naruto stood up from his position. And they shall be picked up in time, said Naruto, who turned to see Zetsu arrive out of the ground. Konoha shinobi are heading towards your position. Itachi and Kisame have tried to hold them off, but they're making their way to you fast, said Zetsu's black half, seeing Naruto nod. Well, I can't say I didn't see that coming. Gaara, we're going to have to put you in an unconscious state. We need Konoha to believe that they've saved you just in time before we extracted Shikaku, said Naruto, while Gaara nodded as Sasori injected him with a formula. Naruto, Pain requests that you not take part in this fight, said Zetsu's white half, seeing Naruto in shock. Why? I'm perfectly capable of taking on my old village, said Naruto, itching to get some payback in for the past. He knows, but he need you to keep back on this one. He says to follow us and wait until Deidara and Sasori are done, said Zetsu's black halt, while Naruto sighed in defeat. Fine, I'll go along with his plan, said Naruto, putting his mask back on. Don't worry, kid, you'll get your shot soon enough, said Deidara, standing next to Gaara with Sasori. Soon, very soon I will have some action, thought Naruto as he left the cave with Zetsu leading the way. Naruto watched Sasori and Deidara take on his former team. Well, not exactly the whole team since he left and Sasuke was gone. Now it was just Kakashi and Sakura, but they were joined by a random shinobi with regular Konoha Jonin outfit with black hair and green eyes, an. This is just a random Ak, he's not really important, just a quick replacement. Also, they had an old woman with them, claiming to be Sasori's grandmother, and Sasori backed up her claim. After some talking, Deidara took Gaara's unconscious body in a giant clay bird's mouth and took off. Kakashi said that Sakura and Chio should take Sasori, while Kakashi and the new guy chased after Deidara. "Naruto," said Zetsu, getting the blonde's attention, "the leader wants to talk to you." "Okay," said Naruto, following Zetsu further into the cave. Once far enough, Naruto took his mask off, closed his eyes and made himself appear in a cave with the other Akatsuki members, all looking like holograms. "Why didn't you want me to fight my old team?" asked Naruto, the anger present in his voice. "You don't need to concern yourself with them. For now, you are only to be concerned with gathering your fellow Jinchuriki to our cause," said Pain, while Naruto just got angrier. "If that's true, then what the hell was all my training for?" asked Naruto, all the other members remaining silent. "That was to prepare you for the imminent attack on the villages," said Pain, getting angry with Naruto. "And what happens if I run into resistance? You going to call me back again?" asked Naruto, getting as frustrated as Pain was at this point. "Leader Sama," said Itachi, getting everyone's attention, "Naruto does have a point. We can't expect him to not take action until the invasion, and if Deidara or Sasori needs help, he is the only one close enough to help. Very well then. I suppose I couldn't keep you out of action forever, but keep your identity a secret. Zetsu, monitor Deidara and Sasori and inform Naruto when one of them needs support," said Pain, signing off from the conversation. "Thanks for the support Itachi-san," said Naruto, who couldn't exactly read Itachi's face. "I have no love for a village that does what it did to you for completing a mission. Might as well just cause trouble for it. Plus all that power is useless if you can't use it," said Itachi, earning a nod from Naruto before signing off as well. "Naruto," said Zetsu, reappearing next to Naruto, "Sasori is holding his own against your former pink-haired teammate and the old woman, but Deidara is running from Kakashi and the other member. You should tail him and provide backup when he needs it." Naruto merely nodded, applied his mask, and left out the cave via a secret entrance. It didn't take Naruto long to find Deidara being chased by his former sensei and his apparent replacement. It made Naruto want to attack him right now, but patience was key right now. He was staying hidden in trees above the canyon that Deidara was flying over. While he was running, Kurama decided to have a little chat. "You've gotta calm down kid, your adrenaline and anger are building up by the minute," said Kurama, talking to Naruto in the back of his head. "I've been waiting for an opportunity like this for 2 years, I will not let it slip by me," said Naruto, keeping his pace so as not to get too far ahead. "I know, but you have to be patient. Remember what the others and I taught you. If you can wait for your time, the victory will be all the more sweeter," said Kurama, as Naruto began to calm himself. Eventually, Kakashi and the Jonin, Ichiro, made their move against Deidara. Kakashi used his Mangekyou Sharingan to create a hole to another universe and took off Deidara's right arm. Meanwhile, Ichiro created a wind blade and cut the head of the giant clay bird that Deidara was riding, causing him to abandon the bird and flee into the forest. Kakashi pursued after Deidara, while Ichiro went on to tend to Gaara. Naruto looked at Kakashi, but then looked to Ichiro. Deidara can take care of himself for a while. Might as well take down the new guy, thought Naruto, following Ichiro. Ichiro found Gaara still stuck in the bird's beak. After prying Gaara out, he checked to make sure he was still alive. Afterwards, Ichiro turned around to see Naruto standing before him. "There are 3 of you out here. Interesting. So, what's your name, Skullface?" asked Ichiro, while Naruto remained silent. "Alright then, guess I won't waste any more time." Ichiro pushed his hand forward and sent a force of wind towards Naruto. Naruto merely countered with the same attack and proceeded to leap through the impact. He caught Ichiro in the jaw with his heel, resulting in him smashing through a tree. "The whirlwind fist, a powerful technique, too bad I learned it after I found out my affinity," said Naruto, walking over to Ichiro, slowly getting to his feet. "Okay then, since we're matched in ninjutsu might as well use taijutsu," said Ichiro, hopping his neck. "You should have stuck with ninjutsu," said Naruto, walking towards his downed prey. Ichiro tried a flurry of punches against Naruto, all being either blocked or deflected. Ichiro then tried a head kick, but when Naruto ducked underneath then tried a leg sweep, which Naruto decided to catch. "If this is really Konoha's Jonin strength, then you have gotten too soft in your time of peace. Let me show you what happens when you keep up an unbearable training schedule," said Naruto, keeping a hold of Ichiro's leg. Naruto proceeded to elbow Ichiro's knee while holding his leg. Ichiro yelled in pain, holding his now broken leg. Naruto then rushed Ichiro with a hard punch to the gut. Ichiro barely had time to catch the breath he lost before Naruto back-fisted the side of his face. Ichiro stumbled backwards, tired and weary from the quick brutal shots Naruto delivered. Ichiro tried to attack with a slow, weak punch, but was easily blocked by Naruto, who retaliated with a hard elbow to the face. Ichiro stumbled back and then was pierced in the gut by a kunai. "You will be the first of many," whispered Naruto, twisting the knife, ending Ichiro's life. Naruto then made 3 shadow clones. He pointed to 2 of the clones. "Turn yourselves into this man and take Gaara to Sakura. Tell them that they need to give him medical treatment and then disperse," stated Naruto, as the clones nodded and carried out their orders while he looked at the 3rd clone. "Now then, let's cause some trouble." But Deidara was not exactly in the best predicament. He was about to get away from Kakashi. However, Might Guy's team arrived and intercepted him. The 5 Konoha shinobi now cornered him like a rat in a trap. "Give yourself up, you're surrounded," said Kakashi, as Deidara was looking around frantically. "No way out of this, guess I'm going to have to do a fake suicide," thought Deidara, as he prepared to start forming the clay in his mouth. "Let him go, or your teammate dies," said Naruto, appearing out of the trees with Ichiro in a chokehold, poised to snap his neck. "Ichiro," said Kakashi, as the focus of everyone was on the hostage situation. "Let him go," demanded Lee, going into a fighting pose. "First things first, Deidara, get out of here," said Naruto, as Deidara smirked and left the area. "There, he's gone, now let him go," said Tenten, keeping a hand on her scroll. "Not until I'm sure he's far enough away from here," said Naruto, keeping a tight hold on Ichiro's head. "Who are you?" asked Kakashi, looking at the Naruto's skull-masked face. "My name is irrelevant, but if it would help you can call me Menma, an. Yes, I used alternate world Naruto's name from Road to Ninja," said Naruto, still clutching onto Ichiro. "Well, Menma, what do you plan to do next?" asked Kakashi, keeping a calculated eye on Naruto. "Eliminate your teammate," said Naruto, pulling back to break his Ichiro's neck. "No," said Lee, rushing in with intense speed. "Gotcha," thought Naruto, as he let go of Ichiro, who turned back into Naruto. What happened to Ichiro?" asked Lee, who leapt into the air and proceeded to spin kick Naruto. "I'm sure you know the answer to that," said Naruto, catching Lee's leg and pulling him forward. After he pulled him towards him, Naruto's clone drove his knee into Lee's face. Naruto, keeping a hold of Lee's leg, threw him straight into the ground, knocking the wind out of him. Naruto's clone swiftly leg dropped across Lee's stomach, causing him to cough up blood. "Lee," said Guy, as the others prepared to engage the masked individual. "Now," said Naruto, pushing Lee to the side with his foot, "we can begin the real fight." "Now," said Naruto, kicking Lee to the side, "we can begin." "Lee," said Guy, as he was about to rush to his pupil's aid, but was caught by Kakashi. "Wait, Guy. This guy is obviously powerful to jutsu. I'm not doubting your skills, but we need to take this guy as a team," said Kakashi, turning his attention directly at Naruto. "If you don't hurry up, then I'm just going to have to make the first move," said Naruto, folding his arms. "Alright, here's the plan. Neji and Tenten will attack and distract him. Once his attention is focused on them, Guy will come in and hit him hard with his taijutsu. Once that is done, I will attack with Rikiri and end this quickly as possible." "Ready?" said Kakashi as the others nodded with his plan and now faced Naruto. "Here they come," thought Naruto, preparing for the assault. Neji and Tenten proceed to charge towards Naruto. Tenten brought out 2 swords to attack with and swung down vertically. Naruto caught both of Tenten's wrists and kneed her in the gut. As Tenten lost her breath and grip, Naruto let go of her, grabbed one of the falling swords and stabbed her through the shoulder and pinned her to the tree. Neji, angered by his teammates' cries of pain, started to attack Naruto with a gentle fist. Naruto immediately started dodging attacks, knowing how dangerous they were from experience. Neji kept trying to land a palm on Naruto, but was missing Naruto by mere inches. Eventually, Naruto shifted past one of Neji's strikes and caught him with a right elbow to the face. Neji reeled back, but compassed himself in time to catch Naruto's fist and retaliated to strike at Naruto, but Naruto caught his wrist. The two just stayed that way in deadlock, looking at each other's all the while trying to gain leverage over the other. Naruto eventually monkey flipped Neji into a tree back first and got to his feet. Neji got back to his feet in time for Naruto to grab his face and smashed it into the ground. Naruto released Neji to find that he was unconscious. Naruto had very little time to take in the victory before he was back on the defense. "Dynamic entry," yelled Guy as he launched his signature flying kick. Naruto ducked out of the way of the kick and then attempted to catch Guy with a kunai. Guy grabbed the kunai out of midair and threw it to the side and then proceeded to engage Naruto into jutsu. Guy was the one mostly on offense, but this was because Naruto wanted to weaken Guy as much as possible. He was strong, but taking on a veteran Jonin would be a difficult task. Guy actually managed to catch Naruto with a right hook to the face. The blow forced Naruto back some good 10 feet and as Naruto felt his mask he came across a crack. This put Naruto on edge since maybe one more good punch would destroy his mask. "Time for offense," thought Naruto, who blocked past Guy's punch and countered with punch of his own. Guy and Naruto continued their fight, back and forth with punches and kicks. Guy then attempted a leg drop, but Naruto maneuvered under the leg, connected his right fist to Guy's stomach, forced a punch downward, and caused a crater in the ground from the force of the punch. Naruto pulled his fist out of Guy's gut and scanned the area of his handiwork. Tenten was still impaled on the tree and was struggling to free herself, though with the loss of blood she was growing weaker. Neji was still unconscious from the head trauma that was inflicted when Naruto smashed his head on the ground. Then there was Guy, who Naruto was sure was weakened by his fight with Kisame, otherwise this fight might have been much more intense. As he looked around he found something off, only just realizing what it was by looking around. "Where's Kakashi?" thought Naruto, who heard the sound of chirping sound approaching behind him. "Bakiri!" yelled Kakashi, extending his lightning-encased hand towards Naruto. Naruto turned around, as Kakashi was mere feet from impaling him. Naruto brought his hand up to seize Kakashi's wrist and deflect the attack from him. Unfortunately, Naruto could only force Kakashi's wrist far enough to miss his chest, but the technique skimmed the side of his body, causing a wound on his side. Naruto cringed in pain as he threw away Kakashi's wrist and kneed him in the stomach, causing both men to back away from each other. Kakashi was gathering his breath whereas Naruto was tending to his bleeding side. "You managed to take on all of us and took down all of my comrades. I wonder if you can still do that with a damaged side," said Kakashi, eyeing the bleeding side of Naruto. "This won't be a problem to take you down," said Naruto, though his side was still giving him trouble. Kakashi wasted no more time and threw a punch right to Naruto, but Naruto flicked some of his blood off of his hand and at Kakashi's face. Kakashi had to close his eyes to rub the blood, but in one swift movement Naruto put a kunai, stomped on Kakashi's knee, and held a kunai at the throat of a kneeling Kakashi. Kakashi looked up at Naruto with wide eyes, and in his eyes Naruto saw something that almost made him laugh. He was preparing to end Kakashi's life, but heard the voice of Kurama. "Wait Naruto, I have a better idea," said Kurama, as he told Naruto a much better course of action. "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. I want you to deliver this message. The Akatsuki is going to bring a new age across the elemental countries, and the ninja world will be shaken to its foundation, and you had best tell your Hokage that you allowed a member of your team to die on your watch," said Naruto, headbutting Kakashi, knocking him out. Naruto then decided to make his way back to Akatsuki headquarters, his work done for now. He was some 2 miles away from the battle site when he saw Zetsu and Deidara. "Thought you might have made it back to headquarters by now, Deidara," asked Naruto, getting the attention of the Akatsuki members. "I'm still here because, well, Zetsu is trying to find my other arm," said Deidara, who became angered when Naruto started to laugh. "Well, we'll find it in a while." "Say Zetsu, where's Sasori?" asked Naruto, since he didn't see him around. "Sasori is dead, defeated by his grandmother Chiyo along with your former teammate." "I have already collected his ring," said Zetsu, as Naruto took off his mask and bowed his head in respect. "The great comrade lost before he could see our triumph, he will be missed." "Come on, we should be heading back to AIM to report to Pain," said Naruto, just as Deidara stumbled upon his missing limb. Akatsuki base moments later. "Do we have the Ichibi support?" asked Pain, as the trio made their way into Pain chamber. "Yes, when the time comes he will join us. However, Sasori was defeated in combat," said Naruto, as Pain rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Then our victory came at a price, he will be a missed member. Now, we must focus on the continuation of the plan. I've sent Haiden and Kakuzu to locate the other Jinchuriki, and when they have more information we will move. Until then you need to keep training." "Dismissed," said Pain, as the members bowed. "Oh, Konan," said Naruto, showing her his cracked mask and the portion of his cloak that was caught by Kakashi's attack, "I'm going to some replacements." "Sai, follow me then," said Konan, leading Naruto to a separate room. "I was wondering how long that mask would last." Sorry, I know that a lot of effort was put into the mask. Though if I must say, there was too much design in it. I wouldn't mind just a simpler look to it," said Naruto, as Konan gave him a hooded Akatsuki cloak. "Hooded? Nice touch. It's a new design we're trying, and you're going to have to be shady in order to move about without your identity being shown. Here, see how this works," said Konan, handing him a Plan Hunter Nin mask. "Now this is more like it," said Naruto, putting the mask on as well as the hood, simple but powerful. "Thanks Konan. Just make it last," said Konan, smiling as Naruto smiled back. As Naruto made his way out of the storage room, Itachi made himself known. "You were very successful for your first time into the field," said Itachi, walking next to Naruto. "Yes, and I saw something in Kakashi's eyes that has assured my resolve for our mission," said Naruto, smiling a vicious smile. "What?" asked Itachi, as Naruto turned to look at him. "Fear, and with that fear, uncertainty will spread into his body and the others, and our victory will be all but assured," said Naruto, as the possibilities passed through his mind. "And when exactly are you getting her?" asked Itachi, handing Naruto a picture. Upon looking at the picture Naruto realized that it was a resend picture of Hinata, obviously taken without her knowing. Naruto had told Itachi, as well as Pain, about his connection to Hinata. He later asked Itachi if he could get a picture of Hinata for him to keep with him, calling it motivation to continue. It would seem that Itachi obliged him to his request. "You actually got it?" asked Naruto, sounding surprised. "It was Zetsu, I merely made the request. When will you make your move?" asked Itachi, as Naruto's face made an uncertain, downtrodden look. "I'm not sure, but I'll take whatever opportunity I can get." "Thanks again Itachi," said Naruto, as Itachi merely nodded at him. "So what now?" asked Itachi, as he and Naruto looked out into the rainy sky of AIM. "We wait for word from Kakuzu and Haiden. Until then I'll continue my training," said Naruto, as Itachi nodded at his words. A definitive first step towards the goal of the organization and an attachment as strong as ever. Naruto continues his crusade for a better world through any means necessary. "You're telling me that one man did all this to you and your team?" asked Tsunade, as she was looking at Kakashi in disbelief. Kakashi and Guy's team found Ichiro's body and sealed him away until they got to Konoha. They later ran into Sakura and Lady Chiyo, who were carrying Gaara back to Suna, and explained what had happened. Sakura said that two of Ichiro's clones brought Gaara to her, to which Kakashi came to the conclusion that he must have done this before dying. After taking him back to Suna, Gaara thanked them for their help and was sorry for the loss of their comrade. After getting some medical treatment, the squad returned to Konoha, victorious, but still showing signs of being beaten. So, here Kakashi was explaining, uneasily, to Tsunade what exactly happened to him and Guy's team. One man single-handedly took out Guy's team and then proceeded to injure him and deliver a message. "Yes, Hokage-sama. I've never seen anything like it. I could possibly see him taking down Tenten and maybe Lee, but he managed to avoid and counter Neji and Guy, then still have enough prowess and technique to beat me," said Kakashi, still trying to piece together the whole situation. Tsunade sighs. The Akatsuki is getting bolder, this guy especially. His message promises destruction, but they've got to make it here first, said Tsunade, putting her elbows on her desk. Agreed, but if this guy is representing what the rest of the members can do, we need to deal with as many of them as we can, said Kakashi, dismissing himself from Tsunade's office. Tsunade decided to walk around the village to take her mind off of things. She greeted villagers that greeted her as she made her way around the market. Eventually, she found Iruka sitting down at Ichiraku's, enjoying a bowl of miso ramen. "Hello Iruka," said Tsunade, taking a seat next to the Chunin. "Oh, Tsunade-sama. Can I get you a bowl?" asked Iruka, as he greeted her with a smile. No, I'm not hungry Iruka, said Tsunade, as she looked at the wall of the restaurant. "It's not the same without him, is it?" "Yay," said Iruka, a frown crossing his face. "It seems like any minute now he'd be coming up asking for me to buy him a bowl." "Yay," laughed Tsunade, who then returned to a saddened face. "What do you think he's doing right now?" "Tsunade-sama, I'm not sure, but whatever it is I know he's okay," said Iruka, smiling at the Hokage. Naruto was running through an abandoned, slightly flooded building as he dodged another fireball. He took cover behind a rock as he started to think of a way to defuse the situation. He was in this predicament thanks to one Jashiness jumping the gun. Haiden and Kakuzu managed to locate the Nibi Jinchuriki, Nai Yujito. Kakuzu told Haiden to let Naruto do the talking and that they were there for backup. However, when Yujito saw them, she started running, to which Haiden started to attack her, calling it wearing her down. Kakuzu punched his teammate while Naruto followed Yujito. Eventually, Yujito led them to this abandoned building and blew the entrance, trapping the three Akatsuki members with her. She then started to use her Bijuu to launch powerful fireballs at them. Which is how he got to hiding behind this rock. "Haiden, I'm gonna kill you somehow," thought Naruto as he saw Kakuzu trying to get close enough to restrain the Jinchuriki. Yujito saw him coming and launched another fireball towards the man. Kakuzu moved out of the way and extending his tendrils at the Jinchuriki, but Yujito grew her nails out and sliced them into pieces. Kakuzu moved back since she could have easily have pierced one of his hearts. Haiden decided to try his hand at the situation and actually got close to the Jinchuriki. Yujito ducked underneath his scythe strike and impaled the Jashinist with her nails. But Haiden grinned as grabbed her arm and brought his scythe up to strike down the Jinchuriki, who closed her eyes as she awaited the final blow. However, she didn't feel the pain and looked to see the masked Naruto holding Haiden's scythe back. "How clear do I have to make this for you? We are not here to kill her," yelled Naruto as Kakuzu appeared to take Haiden's scythe away. "I wasn't going to kill her much," said Haiden as Naruto rolled his eyes. "I apologize for my friend's actions," said Naruto, seeing Yujito not take her guard down. "I know who you are, I know that you captured the Kazekage, but that you failed in extracting his Bijuu. I won't allow myself to be caught," said Yujito, ready to fight her way out, but heard Naruto chuckle. "You shouldn't believe everything that you hear, Yujito. You heard what we wanted the rest of the world to hear," said Naruto, taking a seat on a pile of rubble. "What? You're just trying to confuse me," stated Yujito sternly as Naruto took off his mask and looked at her with a smile as he pulled his hood down. What would I gain by lying to a fellow Jinchuriki? Said Naruto, seeing the look of shock in her eyes. You're Jinchuriki? But why are you with the Akatsuki? They're after our Biju, said Yujito, as she could feel Nibi stirring around as she felt Kyuubi's presence. There's been a change in their plans. We are now recruiting the Jinchuriki to this cause of bringing a new age to the shinobi world. If we stand together with the Akatsuki, we can bring a change unlike anything this world has, do you think? Asked Naruto, extending his hand. My village is actually very good to me, and there is another Jinchuriki in Kumo that's just as loyal to the village. It sounds like you plan on attacking villages, and I cannot go along with this if you threaten my village, said Yujito, as Naruto put his hand down. Then how about an alliance? We could work out an arrangement with the Raikage that would help both parties, said Naruto, as he was trying to get some form of agreement from the Jinchuriki. He might consider it, but Raikage-sama will want to know why I request this and will want to meet face to face in order to secure the deal, said Yujito, as she was intrigued at the possibility of joining with others like her. Very well. Let us know if we can reach an arrangement and we'll meet to work something out, said Naruto, bowing to his fellow Jinchuriki. I will, said Yujito, leaving to return to Kumo. Well, not the intended result, but we have at least some progress, said Naruto, looking at the zombie duo. Good, but now I'd like to do something that will actually get some profit, said Kakuzu, pulling out a map of designated targets. Ah Kakuzu, you never cease to increase your income, said Naruto, smirking as he saw Kakuzu glare at him. I have to take a bounty considering you took a large sum of money from me in a poker game, growled Kakuzu, as Naruto shrugged. What can I say, luck just runs through me, said Naruto, while Kakuzu put his map away. Whatever. Let's go hidin', said Kakuzu, as he and his partner left Naruto in the compound. So I guess I'll head off, said Naruto exiting the compound and putting his mask back on. Naruto went into small village on his way to aim. As he was making his way through the village, he sensed a chakra signature, but recognized it as Biju energy. He closed his eyes so to better get a fix on the location of the energy. However, the sound of the fight seemed to be the answer to his question. While others moved away from the sound of the fight, Naruto calmly made his way to the source. Upon making his way into an eatery, he found a Taki shinobi being thrown right by him. He saw two more surrounding a girl with mint hair with an orange hair clip and rain eyes. Her outfit was white top and skirt and wide arm sleeves and blue shinobi sandals. Naruto also noticed a Taki headband tied around her right arm. It's a retrieval unit, thought Naruto, seeing the standoff. She blocked a punch from one of the shinobi and flipped him over her shoulder through a table. The other shinobi attacked a bit more carefully and actually had a back and forth battle going. Naruto watched the battle closely but felt the shinobi behind him start to get to his feet. As he walked back into the eatery, Naruto grabbed him by the back of his head and slammed him into the wall, knocking him out for good. The kunoichi continued her battle with the shinobi, but maneuvered around a punch and snapped his neck with a quick motion. As she watched her opponent collapse, she didn't notice the opponent she put through a table get back up. As he got ready to attack her, Naruto threw kunai at his neck, effectively killing the man. The girl turned the sound of a body collapsing on the ground and turned to look at Naruto. You must be quite the fighter to have 3 shinobi come after you, miss, asked Naruto, seeing as the girl was still hostile. Fu. Would you help me out? Have we met? Asked Fu as Naruto moved closer. My name is Naruto and I represent the Akatsuki, said Naruto, taking off his mask as he talked, though after To's words left his mouth, Fu looked even more hostile and pounced on him. So, you just rescued me to capture me yourself. Sorry pal, but I'm not gonna let that happen, said Fu, currently on top of Naruto with a kunai at his throat. Hold on. I'm a Jinchuriki too. I'm just here to talk, said Naruto quickly, as Fu looked surprised at what he said. How do you know that I'm a Jinchuriki? Why are you working for the Akatsuki? Said Fu, as she still had the kunai up against his neck. Kyuubi could sense your energy. I just followed your energy to here. The Akatsuki is now just recruiting Jinchuriki to help them, said Naruto, as Fu looked at him, but proceeded to get off him and help him up. Say I believe you, what do I get out of this? Asked Fu, as she waited to know her benefits of joining a terrorist organization. I can promise you revenge against your village. How does that sound? Asked Naruto, as she thought about it, then showed a smirk on her face. Alright, you promise help me take down my village, and you got yourself a deal, said Fu, extending her hand. I was actually expecting this to be a little more difficult, said Naruto, raising an eyebrow. Well, if I can at least put my village out of my mind for good, then that's all I can ask of you for no, said Fu, who grew a sly smile while looking at Naruto, unless you want something along the lines of a date. Ahaha, sorry to disappoint you, but I already have someone, said Naruto, while folded her arms. Lucky girl. Nice to see there's still some kind of loyalty between people. So, where should I meet you for the attack? Asked Fu, while Naruto waved her down. Easy, we still have the other Jinchuriki to recruit. Only when we work together can we do anything we wish, said Naruto, while Fu let out a sigh. Fine, but that means I'm gonna have to stay out of sight, said Fu, while Naruto decided to interrupt. There's a small town in the land of waves. Go to a man named Tazuna, tell him Naruto Uzumaki sent you as a guest. He'll keep you safe until the time comes, said Naruto, while Fu was actually surprised. Thought this through, haven't we? Okay, guess I'll head that way. Till later, Naruto Uzumaki, said Fu, exiting the restaurant. Naruto smirked to himself, putting his mask back on. He had just gotten another Jinchuriki to the Akatsuki, and all without a hint of confrontation. Not a bad day for him in the least. As he made his way back and saw aim, he started to think about the group itself. Their members were strong, but if they were going to attack armed villages, they would need to be at their best, Pain included. All he could do was continue his own mission of gathering the Jinchuriki while keeping his own skills sharp. Naruto was making his way to his room in Pain's tower when he felt Pain signaling for another meeting via apparition form. He made his way to where the other members were gathered in Pain's main chambers. You killed the head monk of the fire temple, cashed in his bounty, only to be cut off Konoha shinobi team and killed one of their jonin, and now you to go back and get his body for a bounty. Asked Pain, trying to comprehend the situation that his members have gotten into. We still need to draw income in for our operations, stated Kakuzu bluntly. I understand that, but there's a difference in making our operations have the backing they need and feeding your own income, said Pain sternly. To be fair, Pain-sama, Kakuzu did lose a lot of money to me in a poker game, said Naruto, who got glares from Kakuzu in Pain, but a laugh from Kisame. It does have a lucky streak about him, said Deidara, chuckling a little himself. So I go get some form of proof that you killed him and get out. I'm sending Naruto, because after you help yourselves, you can help him go to the Shinobi Jinchuriki, said Pain, as the shadows bowed. No rest for the wicked then. Oh, I also ran into the Nanabi Jinchuriki, Fu, said Naruto, as he saw Konan and Pain look at him and almost said something to him when he spoke up. Don't worry, everything went off without a hitch. Excellent work. Now, you should probably head off to help Haiden and Kakuzu before something else happens, said Pain. Naruto bowed in response, heading out to help. Naruto was easing his way to Kakuzu and Haiden's location to give them backup. The zombie duo, already way ahead of Naruto, were probably already in some sort of danger and/or confrontation with Konoha forces. Naruto was fed the rest of the facts by Konan, who told him that the jonin that was killed was Asuma Sarutobi, who Naruto remembered as Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino-sensei. If that was the case, then those were the forces he would be going up against. As he started to pick up his pace, Kurama decided to have a conversation. You know that Nara Kid has more than likely already formulated some plan as how to combat Haiden and Kakuzu, said Kurama, as Naruto gave a sarcastic "You think so?" Look. I'm counting on it, Kurama. He might have a plan to deal with Haiden and Kakuzu, but I'm the wild card in this game, thought Naruto, a smirk showing underneath his mask. True, but don't let yourself become too overconfident. You're strong, but you're still human. Other than that, let's have some fun, said Kurama, chuckling to his host. Look at who you're talking to, thought Naruto, focusing back on reaching Kakuzu and Haiden. Naruto continued on until he reached a wide area filled with dead trees. He hoped up to the highest branch on one of the trees and scanned the ground. It didn't take long for him to find Kakuzu standing off with what looked like Ino, Choji, and Kakashi. What was he doing with them? Backup perhaps. In the end, Naruto wasn't worried in the least since he knew he could take Kakashi no problem. It also helped that Kakuzu was there, the guy was as experienced as they come as well as almost immortal. One crucial thing popped into Naruto's head. Neither Haiden or Shikamaru were shown. That means that Haiden was the one who killed Asuma. In that case, there is nothing that can be done for him. Shikamaru obviously is leading him to a trap and probably knows about his immortality. Kakuzu should probably be the one helped out the most at this point. Sorry Haiden, but you'll keep Shikamaru distracted long enough for me to cause some collateral damage, said Naruto, hopping down to the lower branches. He got low enough, he could hear conversation between Kakuzu and the group of three. You may have already have gotten one of my hearts, but that's the only one you'll get. And when I've killed you, I'll have the pick of the litter, said Kakuzu, as he glared at the three in front of him, readying themselves once again. I'm disappointed in you, Kakuzu. You really lost a heart to these three. Said Naruto above them, as he got the attention of everyone. Naruto looked down to see the obvious surprised faces of Ino and Choji, but when he looked at Kakashi, it was different. Kakashi had a twinge of fear in his eyes that Naruto caught just barely before it disappeared. Kakashi-sensei, said Ino, as she looked from Naruto to Kakashi, is that the guy you encountered in the Kazukiage retrieval mission? Yes it is, but it seems like he's made a few costume changes, said Kakashi, seeing Naruto drop down to the ground. Well, it wouldn't look good if I went around with a cracked mask and torn outfit, would I? Said Naruto, as he noticed Haiden's scythe laying on the ground. You took your sweet time, said Kakuzu, as Naruto picked up the scythe and rested it on his right shoulder. Thought you had it under control. Or do you really need Haiden that much? Asked Naruto smirking under his mask. Kakuzu was about to attempt to strangle Naruto, despite how valuable he was to the group, when a new group of ninja arrived. Naruto immediately recognized the trio as Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. He wasn't surprised to see Kiba and Shino, but Hinata different story. Just seeing her face was enough to get a wide-eyed reaction from him, though his mask concealed it. He had seen in the picture Itachi gave her how much she had changed. How her short dark blue hair had grown down her back and her womanly figure showing exceptionally well. However, he had to snap himself out of his thoughts to focus on the situation. "Hey Kakuzu," said Naruto, gaining the aged shinobi's attention, "I'll take the new group, you take care of your original mess." "HMPH fine," said Kakuzu, his 3 remaining hearts returning to his side to engage the enemy. Naruto now looked at the group of 3 in front of him. Unbeknownst to the 3, Naruto had prepped for the inevitable confrontation with his former friends. Even so, Hinata being in the confrontation presented an opportunity he had been awaiting for quite some time. He had to be precise with this, he couldn't be careless or things could turn for the worst. "So, you're the guy who pretty much crippled Guy Sensei's team," said Kiba, getting Naruto out of his thoughts. "I am. Whom am I speaking to, or is it who?" "It's whom, right?" asked Naruto. As Kiba was confused, Shino was unfazed, and Hinata brought herself to speak. I think it's whom," said Hinata innocently, as the masked Naruto nodded. "Thanks beautiful," said Naruto playfully, as Hinata was taken back and Kiba didn't take it well. "What's your problem?" yelled Kiba, as he didn't get this guy's angle. "Just being friendly is all," said Naruto happily. "Calm down Kiba," said Shino, keeping stone-faced the whole time, "he is only trying to irritate us." "I try my best," said Naruto, shrugging as he talked. "Enough. Let's go Akamaru," yelled Kiba as he and his dog rushed Naruto. Naruto smirked as he lifted the scythe of his shoulders and began to twirl it in his right hand. As Kiba got closer, Naruto brought the non-bladed side of the scythe's head of Akamaru while he ducked underneath Kiba's claw. Kiba saw his loyal friend Jet caught and sent flying, which caused him to go into a rage. Naruto continued to twirl the scythe as he saw Kiba constantly lunge for him, only for Naruto to move out of the way of all the attempts. Kiba left himself open for Naruto to strike him in the gut with the end of the scythe. Kiba gasped for air, all the while Naruto threw the scythe to the side and proceeded to seize Kiba by the throat. Kiba gasped for air as Naruto continued to squeeze, cutting off all circulation to his lungs. Naruto was not so into taking down Kiba that he did not notice Shino's insects encroaching on him. Naruto reached into his pouch under his cloak and pulled out a smoke pellet. Upon activating it on the ground, the insects retreated back to Shino's body, much to his surprise. "What's wrong Shino?" asked Hinata, as Shino could have just sent his bugs in to disable the assailant. "The smoke is mixed in with a chemical that my insects can't go near. By covering himself in it, he's practically made himself," said Shino, but stopped himself when he saw the smoke settling. "Untouchable," finished Naruto, as he now held an unconscious Kiba, "which means it's just me and her." Hinata readied herself as Naruto calmly walked towards her. Hinata made the first strike against Naruto, but was dodged easily. This pattern continued until Naruto caught her arm. At that moment, they looked at each other, but was broken off when Naruto knocked her unconscious by a strike to the gut. Naruto flung her over his shoulder and ran over to Kakuzu. "Kakuzu, if you're done playing around then I think we should take our leave," said Naruto, as he made sure that Kakashi and the others saw Hinata on his shoulder. "Fine," Kakuzu said, as his hearts flew back into place, this fight was getting boring anyway. "You really think we're going to let you just go with one of our teammates?" asked Ino in a disbelieving tone. "You follow, she dies," said Naruto, as he and Kakuzu turned and ran. "Kakashi-sensei, we have to go after them," said Choji, fighting his own exhaustion. "That would be unwise," said Shino carrying Kiba on his shoulders, "we can't assume he's bluffing with the damage he has already caused to us. Can't you just have a bug track him so we can find him later?" asked Kakashi, who wanted the man stopped. "The man coded himself in an essence that forces my bugs to stay away. I have no way of tracking him," said Shino solemnly. "Sai, let's go find Shikamaru and report back to Tsunade-sama," said Kakashi, as everyone left into the forest where Shikamaru led Haiden. Naruto and Kakuzu were now heading back to Megakure with Hinata still unconscious. Kakuzu looked at the Hyuga on Naruto's shoulder and grew a smile underneath his mask. "This would be the only way you could get a girl with you," said Kakuzu, while Naruto glared at the immortal warrior through his mask. "Haha," laughed Naruto dryly at the low blow from Kakuzu. "Why are you heading to AIM? I thought we had to head out to where the Shinobi Jinchuriki," asked Kakuzu, as he remembered the leader telling them to find the Jinchuriki. "I made a shadow clone that left with Tadara to save time. They should be there by now," said Naruto, as he continued toward the main hideout. Tadara and Naruto were making their way through a forest surrounding a huge lake filled by a river made by a waterfall. They had been walking for quite some time and trying to find their person of interest. "How much longer to the target, asked Adara, getting tired of all the walking around. They're just a little ways away. Do you mind waiting here while I talk with them? Asked Naruto, seeing Deidara gave an irritated sigh. Fine, but don't take long, said Deidara, folding his arms while Naruto made his way into the forest. Naruto kept following Kurama's reading on the Jinchuriki's energy. As he kept following the energy into the deeper part of the forest and finally came to the end of his search. Standing in the middle of the forest was a small man with messy, light gray hair, pink pupilless eyes. He wore a gray, sleeveless shirt with a Kurigakure forehead protector attached to the front, short-sleeved mesh armor, over which he also wears a green poncho, along with a turquoise sash around his waist, paired with a green apron over his pants. He wore a pair of brown boots, and on his back, he carried a staff-like pole weapon with uneven-sized hooks with a green flower on the larger end. One of the interesting things about the man was his scar on his right cheek. I'm surprised to find another Jinchuriki trying to find me, said the man, looking at Naruto Yugura, former Mizukage of Kiri and Jinchuriki of the Sanbi. Naruto Uzumaki, former shinobi of Konoha, member of the Akatsuki and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, said Naruto removing his mask and hood. The Akatsuki? Said Yugura, narrowing his eyes at the blonde. Interesting, since I thought we were on opposite sides of the board. That's the past. We're now working together to set a new order in the shinobi world. Interested? Asked Naruto, while Yugura just looked at the blonde. I want something out of this new order of your friends. When we take action, I want my position as Mizukage in Kiri. Rest assured, you will have my cooperation from beginning to the resolution. Do I have your word? Asked Yugura, extending his hand to Naruto. I'll pass the word on to my boss, said Naruto, shaking the hand of the former Mizukage. Very well. I suppose I shall wait for your word then, said Yugura, walking in the opposite direction, deeper into the forest. Naruto smirked as he refitted his mask and put on his hood. The flow of the plan was going as smoothly as he could have liked. Tsunade was rubbing her temples with tremendous force, to the point that nearly fractured her own skull, at the increase in anxiety that she was currently going through. Once again she had been informed that a team that she had sent out to deal with an Akatsuki team had reported back with mixed results. Like the other times, one Akatsuki member had been dealt with while the other member was bailed out, hands down, by one of the greatest unknown shinobi walking this earth. Unlike the last time where the individual physically dissected multiple shinobi, however, in this case he took down one single shinobi, made another one practically useless, and then he changed the script by kidnapping a kunoichi from the team. To make matters even worse, this kunoichi, Hinata, was the heiress to the Hyuga clan, one of the most prestigious clans in all of Konoha. That alone was about as bad, crippling four of Konoha's top shinobi. Speaking of the Hyuga clan, its head clansman, who was also Hinata's father, had just arrived at Swan's office, only to be told that his daughter was kidnapped by an extremely dangerous criminal organization. The man's reaction was a loud what, causing Tsunade to rub her temples even harder. Tsunade-sama, are you seriously telling me that my own daughter, heiress to the Hyuga clan, has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki, and in the presence of 5 other Konoha shinobi no less? The Ashi Hyuga asked, yelled, showcasing an immense amount of rage. Considering the fact that the kunoichi was his own daughter, however, it's only natural for Hiashi to react like that, regardless of his role as a clan leader. Unfortunately, Hiashi-sama, that is exactly what I am telling you. Do not make the mistake, however, of thinking that the shinobi present simply did not wish to help Hinata. The man who kidnapped your daughter was also accompanied by a man with multiple hearts, capable of keeping separate shinobi at bay, while another one went off on his own to deal with a shinobi just as dangerous. Meanwhile, Kiba Inuzuka rushed the masked man and was outmatched in every sense of the word. The man then covered himself in a gas that made him untouchable to the Aburum's insects, thereby leaving him alone to attack and take your daughter, Tsunade said, trying to keep herself from lashing out at the Hyuga, as she understood that this was the reaction of a distraught father. Hiashi took a deep breath. Do you have any info about where they might have taken her? No, but we have been looking for their base for quite some time. If we find anything, we'll be sure to look for Hinata. Other than that, we can do nothing else for the time being, Tsunade replied. I understand. Good day, Tsunade-sama, Hiashi said with his anger still seeping into his tone before leaving the Hokage's office. Tsunade took a deep breath before laying back in her chair. She took a quick sip of sake before she heard her window open from the outside. Tsunade looked to see the long white-haired super pervert Jiraiya himself. Sounds like this guy in the Akatsuki is causing quite the trouble for you, Jiraiya said while sporting a mock smile at Tsunade. Save it, Jiraiya. I've had enough of the Akatsuki and this masked man. Have you found their main base yet? Tsunade asked, as she was ready to strike back at this group. Her anger was so great, in fact, that she was tempted to go to there and beat the crap out of the Akatsuki masked man herself. No, but I'm getting close. My spy network is triangulating it as we speak, and I should have something soon, Jiraiya said while leaning his back on the wall. So now the Akatsuki has bumped up to kidnapping? He asked as the conversation turned serious. Apparently, though I have no idea what they could want with Hinata, it could be for the Byakugan, but Itachi is with them so that wouldn't make sense, Tsunade asked while she was laying back in her chair. Either way it looks like I'm gonna have to speed up my search. There's no telling what the Akatsuki is doing to that poor girl, Jiraiya said as he headed back out the window. I know what you mean, said Tsunade as she looked back outside before asking him a question that she had constantly been asking him for 2 years. Have you heard anything regarding Naruto yet? I know, and it's wearing me down. It's been almost 3 years, Tsunade. We may have to consider the possibility that Naruto might already be, Jiraiya said before the sound of a fist slamming into a desk stopped him. Not another word, Jiraiya. Your men just haven't found him, which does not mean he is, Tsunade roared as her angry face turned to a solemn one upon trying to finish her sentence. I know after Nawaki and Dan you'd react this way. I'll keep looking until we find him one way or another. See you around, Tsunade, Jiraiya said before he went out of the window. Goodbye, Jiraiya, Tsunade said before laying back in her chair once again, closing her eyes for a brief rest. A megacur. Meanwhile, Hinata woke up on a bed in a strange bedroom with one window and 2 doors in it. She got from the bed and walked over to the window and looked out said window to see a village of iron buildings and a sky full of rain washing over the city. She came to the conclusion that she was too high up to simply jump down, and thanks to the rain it was too slippery to climb down. She then went over to the closest door and found it was a bathroom. She then went to the other door and discovered it was locked. Hinata then pressed her ear against the door to listen for anything on the other side. It was then that she heard voices talking back and forth, though she could not make out what was being said. The Hyuga heiress heard the conversation end and footsteps coming towards her room. Hinata quickly ran back to her bed and sat down at the foot of the bed. The door unlocked and opened to reveal the Hunter Nin masked shinobi who stepped into the room and looked right at her. Relax, Naruto said under the mask when he noticed that Hinata getting into a defensive posture. You're not going to be harmed. You will forgive me if I don't believe you right away. I've heard about you and what you've done to Konoha shinobi like my cousin Niji, Hinata said as she was still on edge in front of the man. It would seem that my reputation has grown, Naruto said as he still tried to figure out the best way to reveal his identity to her. Maybe you would consider going out with a guy like me? My apologies, but I've got someone already, although I haven't seen him in some time Hinata began to say until she looked over at the dresser next to the bed and noticed Naruto's necklace laying on top of it. Is there something wrong? Naruto asked although he saw what she was looking at as she got off the bed and went directly over to the dresser. Where did you get this? Hinata asked, her voice showing desperation in the question as she began to realize what was going on. I won it from a cranky old woman, but she had a mean punch, Naruto said casually as he walked up behind Hinata at the same time that she turned around. As soon as Naruto had said those words, Hinata's breathing was sporadic as she looked at the masked face of Naruto. She now had a good idea of who the man was in front of her, as one could imagine, however, she was still doubtful. If this was really Naruto underneath that mask she had to know before she said anything else. She was waiting for him to say something else, but Naruto was silent as he waiting to see what she would do. As soon as he was about to speak he noticed Hinata's hands moving up towards his mask. Hinata felt her heart pounding as she moved closer to removing the mask. Naruto himself remained still as this was happening and braced himself as he felt her fingers touch the mask. As Hinata felt the mask separate from his face, she noticed that the black hair of the man in front of her turned blonde which made her stop cold. For those who may have forgotten, Naruto's mask projects a genjutsu that turns his hair black. Naruto noticed this and decided to help her out. He slowly moved his hands to hers and helped pull down the mask. After his face was fully exposed to her, Hinata felt her feet start to give out. Luckily, as she started to slip, Naruto caught her around her waist and held her up. Easy Hinata, you can't faint after not seeing me after all this time, Naruto said jokingly as the Hyuga clan era slowly regained her footing. Naruto-kun, why you're with the Akatsuki? Hinata asked as Naruto took his arms away from Hinata's waist. Yeah, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. It wasn't my first choice on what to do after I was kicked out of Konoha, but I've at least made the best of it. By attacking Konoha shinobi you put Niji and his entire team in the hospital for weeks and also killed a shinobi. Not only that you strangled Kiba until he blacked out, Hinata said. She could not understand how Naruto, could just do these things to his friends and home so willingly. I was banished Hinata and like I said this wasn't my first option, Naruto said before he sighed. Maybe I should explain how this all happened. He sat down on the bed and motioned for Hinata to sit next to him. After I left, I started to try and think about what my next move would be when a group of Anbu from Konoha, probably Danzo's lackeys from Root, claimed that they were under orders to take me to their boss. I told them no and was prepared to fight and run before Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki arrived to take me as well and ended up fighting each other. I could have and probably should have ran while they were busy, but for some reason when I saw Kisame in trouble, I decided to help him out instead and asked to talk to their leader. When they finally decided to take me to him, I actually managed to convince the leader that it would be easier to recruit the Jinchuriki than to capture them. He made me a member of the Akatsuki and had the other Akatsuki members train me for 2 years until I was sent out on the mission to get Gaara, and I assume you already know what happened from there, Naruto explained the while Hinata remained quiet though attentive. I suppose you didn't ask for a start like that, so I can't hate you for doing what you had to survive your exile, said Hinata, though she's still not sure whether or not she'll still be with Naruto now, as that meant that she would have to fight against Konoha as well. There's one more thing I want you to calm. I've also learned to control the Kyuubi's power, Naruto said with a sheepish expression. What? Asked Hinata, as she was very surprised by Naruto's claim. He decided to train me to control his power to better help in working with the Akatsuki. However, training was only one part of the puzzle, the other was that I had to take his power to show that I'm worthy of wielding it. After some time of training, I told Itachi what I needed to do and he decided to watch me just in case something went horribly wrong, after which I battled with Kurama, she looked at him, that's the Kyuubi's name, for a long time, and when I actually managed to grab and absorb his power, it started to affect me and I was losing myself to it. Just I was about to be lost, he takes a deep breath, I was saved by my parents, said Naruto, to which Hinata gasped. I had the same reaction when I saw them. You see, Hinata-chan, my dad was the Yondaime Hokage, and my mom, whose name is Kushina Uzumaki, was the Jinchuriki of Kurama before me, Naruto explained. They managed to put some of chakra into the seal, should the day come when I want to take Kurama's power. They hugged me, well my mom more than my dad of course, he and Hinata laugh, but then they asked me what had happened to me. Upon telling them everything from my time in the academy to my being an Akatsuki, my parents were beyond angry. Dad couldn't believe the village he protected and gave his life for treated his son this way for completing a mission. Mom was just straight up rage and wished she wasn't dead to take vengeance on the village herself. When they calmed down, they reacted the same as you did when they found out I was a part of this organization. They kept asking me if I was sure and I told them I wasn't going to turn back. With that notion, they helped me tackle Kurama and take his power in a barrage of attacks. But that done, my parents told me they loved me and wished me luck. I then started practicing with the power until time came for me to move. After Naruto finished up his story, Hinata stood up and walked over to look out the window. So now you know what I've been doing all this time, Hinata-chan. What are you thinking? Asked Naruto as he stood up and stood at the foot of his bed. You've greatly changed since the last time I saw you, Naruto-kun. You are stronger, far more violent than you were, and things you've done are horrible. But said Hinata, turning around to see Naruto. But? Asked Naruto, as he was desperate to hear her. I still see the boy I fell in love with years ago, said Hinata, smiling at Naruto as she put her hand on his cheek, but I must know something. Ask me anything, Hinata-chan, Naruto said, as he felt her other hand go to his other cheek. What do you intend to do to Konoha? Asked Hinata, as she wanted to know what was in store for the village. If you're asking if we will attack it, then yes, we will attack Konoha at a certain time, said Naruto, wanting to be truthful to his love. I'm guessing I can't turn you away from doing this, said Hinata, to which Naruto shook his head, then may I ask that my sister be spared in the attack? Certainly, as I am getting others out before our attack anyway, said Naruto stroking her hair. Thank you, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, kissing him fully. They stayed locked in their passion, unaware that Itachi stood outside happy that Naruto finally got his love. However, he wondered why he did not tell her about the night his parents died. Naruto told Itachi that a man interfered with the day of his birth and took him hostage, but was rescued by his father, Minato. The man took the opportunity to kidnap his mother and extract Kurama. Minato engaged the man and killed him with a very powerful Rasengan and then had to deal with the Kyuubi. Hence, he and his wife decided to give their lives to protect their son and seal the Kyuubi inside of him. Itachi would let it go for now and let Naruto have his time with his love. They still had a job to do and maybe he could get young Hinata to join the Akatsuki. Sunlight managed to break through the cloudy sky of Omegakure. It then proceeded to make its way through a window and onto the face of Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto slowly opened eyes and cursed the sunlight as it had awoken him from his sleep. Naruto felt a weight on his chest and looked down to see Hinata's head resting on him. He smiled and proceeded to gently run his fingers through her hair, resulting in her shifting a little. They didn't do it since they both agreed that it wasn't exactly the best time for it. The previous night, Hinata realized that she would be in bed with Naruto. She was obviously flustered and her frustration didn't ease when Naruto showed her that he was sleeping in just a pair of sleeping pants. After actually getting into the bed, she was calmed down by Naruto holding her close to him. They told each other they loved the other before they fell asleep in the other's embrace. Naruto was about to fall back asleep when he heard a soft knock at the door of his room. Naruto slowly maneuvered Hinata's head and arm off of his body, to which she responded by rolling over and releasing a moan. Naruto opened up the door to see Itachi, who Naruto could have sworn tried to hide a smile as he opened the door. These are Hinata-san's new robes as a part of our organization. When you both are ready, Leader Sama would like to see you both, said Itachi, handing Naruto the stack of clothes. Thanks Itachi, said Naruto, who was about to close the door. By the way, was that a smile about earlier? I'm not sure what you're talking about, said Itachi turning around and smirking as he left. Naruto rolled his eyes and closed the door. He turned around to see Hinata still asleep and decided it was time to wake her up. He set the stack of clothes on the foot of the bed. Naruto then walked over to Hinata and kissed her on the cheek, causing her to stir a little. Hinata-chan, it's time to wake up, said Naruto softly, bringing Hinata's eyes open. Okay Naruto-kun, said Hinata sitting up and rubbing her eyes. I'm gonna take a shower. Your clothes are at the foot of the bed when you're ready, said Naruto, gathering up his own clothes so he could change after his shower. After showering Naruto put all his Akatsuki gear on in the bathroom. After finishing, however, he noticed that he didn't have his Hunter Nin mask. Hinata-chan, have you seen my, said Naruto as he opened the door only to find that Hinata herself was wearing the mask as she had herself wrapped in the bed sheets. Looking for something Naruto-kun? Asked Hinata innocently as Naruto chuckled at her. Your beautiful face should never be covered like that Hinata-chan, said Naruto, taking the mask off of her face. Nice of you to say, said Hinata as she and Naruto leaned into a kiss, his arms wrapping around her waist. Come on, said Naruto, pulling away from her, we shouldn't keep leader waiting. Hinata smiled as she went past Naruto to take her shower and get dressed. He waited outside his room until she emerged in her full Akatsuki attire. The duo walked into the main chamber where Pain was sitting in his chair and Conan standing to his right. So this is the new recruit? Asked Pain, putting his elbows on his knees. Hinata is a capable shinobi, both in skill and in her Kekkei Genkai. She will be a helpful member to this organization in bringing about the new order, said Naruto, as Hinata slightly blushed at Naruto's words of praise. I'll take your word, but we should test her skill and improve upon them. Conan, take young Hinata and train her. We need her skills sharp and ready when we're ready to move, said Pain, as Conan nodded. Hum along, Hinata. We'll begin your training at once, said Conan, as Hinata followed her out of the room. Looks like Conan finally has an apprentice of her own, said Naruto, chuckling a little to himself. Are you certain that she can be trusted? She has clan members still in the village and could turn on us, said Pai, while Naruto folded his arms. You doubt my judgment? Asked Naruto, raising an eyebrow to the leader of the Akatsuki. I think you're letting your personal feelings cloud your judgment. You love her and that could be hindering your choices, said Pain, as Naruto was not liking the tone of the man. Oh really? So did the love Yahiko have for you and Conan cloud his judgment when he made the sacrifice for you too? Asked Naruto, as he saw Pain's eyes widen. Conan had told Naruto in his downtime during the 2 years of training about the stories of her time with Yahiko and how she loved him. She recounted the many adventures she had with him and Nagato, from their time as orphans being trained by Jiraiya to the formation of the original Akatsuki. She then told him the moment when Yahiko gave his life for her and Nagato and how it changed everything. Naruto knew bringing up the subject was risky, but he took the chance all the same. It proved not well when Pain seized Naruto by the throat. You dare justify your situation by using my friend's dying moments as the same as you're trusting this girl? I should break your neck, said Pain in a quiet rage. Maybe you would rather do this face to face then, said Naruto, getting another wide-eyed look from Pain, so it's true. This is just the puppet. How have you figured this out? Asked Pain in a panic whisper. I've been around you for 2 years and Kyuubi sensed something off about you in that time. Said you had chakra going through you, but it was highly concentrated in certain points of your body. So we theorized that this person was a puppet being controlled and you just proved our little theory, said Naruto, even with his throat being gripped. But now, then, are you going to do? Asked Pain, since his answer would hinder on life or death. I'm not going to betray you, and I will not reveal this to anyone. All I ask is a meeting with the real you, said Naruto, as Pain began to let him down. To what end? Asked Pain, eyeing him carefully. Simply to understand why you are using these bodies, said Naruto, looking Pain clearly in the eye. After a few seconds, Pain gave a nod to him and turned his attention to the arriving Zetsu. I have news. Sasuke Uchiha has killed Orochimaru, said Zetsu, getting a shock reaction out of both members. We need to call a meeting and report this, said Naruto, as Pain nodded and proceeded to send the signal for a meeting. A few minutes later, the members, excluding Conan and Hinata, were accounted for the meeting. What's the news? Asked Kakuzu, shown in his holographic form. Sasuke Uchiha has killed Orochimaru, said Pain, as every one of the members has a different reaction. We'll so much for getting him ourselves, said Deidara, a little disappointed at the news. Looks like your little brother is making good progress, said Kisame, chuckling a little to himself. What's our next move then? Asked Itachi, seeing if he could find time to face his little brother. We should still continue to recruit the Jinchuriki. You can settle the affair with your brother, should you run into him, said Pain, as he made sure his tone showed that he meant the last part. Deidara, my clone should still be with you. Try to gather info on the Yonbi and Gobi Jinchuriki if you can, said Naruto, as Deidara gave a HMPH at being ordered. Bikuzu, I am granting you permission to do some bounty hunting on your own. Itachi and Kisame you are to wait for info from Deidara and Naruto's clone, said Pain, as he dismissed the members from the meeting. Now then, Naruto, said Pain turning to face Naruto, you said you wanted to have a face-to-face. After you, said Naruto calmly allowing Pain to lead the way. Pain and Naruto walked up higher and higher in the tower. Eventually, they came to a large room where inside 6 pods, 5 of them containing bodies. Naruto eyed each of the bodies and noticed that Pain was walking over to the empty pod and allowed the aim-inscribed cover come over his head. As soon as that happened, the wall at the end of the room opened up to reveal a man strapped into an interesting machine. Said man had red hair, Rinnegan eyes, pale skinny body, and multiple black rods extending out of his back. So this is the real you? No wonder you use these bodies, said Naruto, walking forward to the man who was Pain. My name is Nagato, and yes I am Pain. I use these bodies to provide a leader for the Akatsuki. With them I can exemplify the powers of the Rinnegan, said Nagato, keeping a watchful eye on Naruto. Why though? Why not present yourself as the leader? Why be a puppet master? Asked Naruto as he didn't understand why a man with such power would limit himself. When I fought Hanzo that day, I unleashed so much power for that moment it crippled my legs and drained me. Hence why I needed to take these bodies to move around and to make appearances in front of the members. Thus, Pain was born and Conan was there to support me, said Nagato, still not completely enjoying the fact that he would be confined to this machine. Is there anything I can do? Asked Naruto, as Nagato merely looked at Naruto. I do not think so, thought your offer is most kind, said Nagato looking back down, only for his head to snap back up, unless, Naruto repeated in curiosity. One of the powers the Rinnegan grants is the ability to absorb chakra. It could be possible that if I can absorb enough, it might give me enough to repair my legs, said Nagato, as Naruto pondered his proposition. What do you think, Kurama? Thought Naruto, who was now face to face with Kurama. I don't like giving someone other than you my power, but I think I can make an exception this time, said Kurama, as Naruto nodded to his huge comrade and going back to the real world. Well? Asked Nagato, as Naruto activated his full controlled Kyuubi cloak. Let's do it. What do I need to do? Asked Naruto, as Nagato was perplexed by the Jinchuriki. Why are you going through with this so easily? Why help me get back to how I was? Asked Nagato, as he didn't get why Naruto was doing this. Because if we're going to bring about this new order then all of us, even you, have to be at our best. Now I ask again. What do I need to do? Asked Naruto, as Nagato extended his hand to Naruto. All you have to do is take a hold of my hand. Then I'll do the rest, said Nagato, as Naruto nodded. As soon as their hands connected, Naruto felt Kurama's chakra being pulled from him and into Nagato's body. At the same time he could see the change in Nagato's body as a result of the absorption. The black rods on Nagato's back were being pushed out and his body was looking much healthier. When Naruto was left without the chakra cloak, he looked up at Negator, who looked much better than he did beforehand. Nagato pushed a button on his machine that released him. Nagato took a deep breath and took a step forward out of the machine. Much to his delight, Nagato was able to stand up and walk forward with very little difficulty. How do you feel? Asked Naruto, as the leader of the Akatsuki moved about. I feel like new. Like I have a new drive in my body, said Nagato, smiling at the man who gave this feeling to him. So, said Naruto cheekily, what now leader-sama? Now, said Nagato, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder, now you have my full trust. Konan was currently testing Hinata's skill so she could decide how to best train her. She was doing this by creating a series of paper clones and occasionally throwing paper shurikens. This was a way of seeing how well Hinata can handle multiple attacks of different natures. Hinata for the most part was doing well in attacking the clones and either dodging or deflecting the shuriken. After about 30 minutes, Konan decided to end the training and disperse the clones. Hinata took a breath of air as Konan walked to her student. You have great skill, Hinata. Some of your techniques have room for improvement, but you have great potential, Konan said as she smiled at the Hyuga heiress. I look forward to training with you, Konan-san, Hinata said while bowing to her new sensei. Naruto talked about you a lot while he was here. Said you were always working hard to prove how strong you were, Konan said before taking note of the blush that was now on Hinata's face. I honestly didn't know if he ever even noticed when we were younger. Seems like so long ago since we were in the academy and now we're part of the Akatsuki, Hinata said, looking slightly down at the ground upon mentioning the massive change. We are not an evil organization, Hinata, but sometimes tragic events must take place in order for some form of change to occur, Konan explained while trying not to rub Hinata in the wrong direction. I realize that, it's just that I'm still getting used to the idea at the moment, Hinata said, to which Conan nodding in understand. That's understandable. Nonetheless, I know you will be a valuable part to this group, said Conan, sporting another smile on her face. As the two made their way back to the main room, Conan stopped in shock at the sight that greeted her. Her shock was due to the sight of Nagato, who was free from his machine without the black rods that had previously been jutting out of his back and looking completely healthy as he sat in his chair. Conan didn't believe her eyes as she ran closer to him, drawing the attention of both Naruto, who was sitting nearby, and Nagato, who were talking at the time. Nagato stood up as she got within 6 feet of him and stopped. Hinata rushed up beside her and looked at Nagato. Nagato, how is this possible? Conan asked, as she still couldn't believe, with good reason, that her friend was now standing in front of her of his own free will. You can thank Naruto for that. He used the Kyuubi's chakra and allowed me to absorb it. Turns out it was strong enough to put me back into top condition. I don't need to be in that machine or use those bodies to make appearances anymore, Nagato explained. Conan then turned her attention to Naruto, who simply shrugged his shoulders before he explained himself. We need everyone at their best, and Nagato was definitely not at his best while he was confined to that machine, and that bad a shape, Naruto casually explained, smiling at Nagato while Conan was still in shock. Conan eventually got over her shock and finally lunged at Nagato to give him a hug. Nagato was a little taken back, but smiled and returned the hug. Naruto taped Hinata on the shoulder and motioned her to follow him to leave the two friends alone. I knew she would be shocked to see him, but I wasn't completely expecting that, Naruto pointed out as he walked with Hinata. You did a great thing for them both. You really are committed to helping this group, aren't you? Hinata asked, to which Naruto sighed. Yes, I am. This group could have easily taken Kurama from me and killing me in the process when I gave myself up. Instead, were willing to go along with the plan I had suggested, and then they even took me in and trained me. Besides, I doubt that Konoha will just welcome me back after they had kicked me out for simply doing my job, not to mention I sort of stuck it to them in my fights with the others, and even if I was still in Konoha, it's obvious that the other villages can't ever seem to agree on anything to keep any sort of lasting peace, Naruto explained before he stopped and looked at Hinata. Hinata, I know I'm not entirely like the person that I once was, but I've finally realized what needs to happen to make this world better, no matter how much it may seem wrong. Besides, after what I've done up to this point, Konoha will never accept me back into their ranks, and they certainly won't do it by the time everything is ready for us to make our move. I understand. Just please keep your promise to me, Hinata said, placing a hand on Naruto's cheek. I will, Naruto said in a reassuring tone while placing his hand over hers and smiling. Naruto and Hinata turned to face Itachi, who had appeared before them alongside Kisame. We have just located both the Yonbi and Gobi Jinchuriki, Rashi and Han, and are about to recruit them. Sounds good. Let's get going so we don't lose them, Naruto said before looking back at Hinata. I'll see you later, okay? Hinata nodded in understanding. Just be careful, Hinata said, giving Naruto a quick kiss before he left with Itachi and Kisame. With Naruto's clone and Deidara, as the real Naruto prepared to go after the two Iwa Jinchuriki, both his shadow clone and Deidara were walking through a forest after they had successfully gotten in contact with the Agura, the Sanbi Jinchuriki, and were currently heading back to Aim. As the two Akatsuki members entered a small clearing, the shadow clone suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked to his right. Deidara looked at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. What is it? Deidara asked, curious to know what could catch Naruto's attention so quickly. It's Sasuke. I can clearly sense his chakra signature. It appears that he's headed out way. Why don't we drop by and give him a proper greeting? Naruto suggested to Deidara as he began grinning underneath his mask. Music to my ears, Naruto. Music to my ears, Deidara replied before he and Naruto ran to the location where the young Uzumaki had sensed Sasuke's signature. Naruto was almost bursting with excitement at the opportunity to face his former comrade and rival. The two had been training with different masters for the past couple of years and, given their teachers and Sasuke's goals, a confrontation was going to be inevitable. Itachi even told him that a fight between the two would be a sight to watch, though Naruto was planning to hold back on their fight so that the Uchiha brothers could finally have some closure in their own inevitable clash. Naruto continued to track his former teammate until he caught sight of him in a clearing from the forest. Sasuke took notice of the masked man in front of him, who was soon joined by Deidara. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the two Akatsuki members in front of him. You two are Akatsuki, correct? Tell me the location of Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke demanded as he gripped the handle of Kusanagi, the blade he stole from Orochimaru. Now, why the hell would we tell you that information? Especially with that hostile attitude of yours, Naruto questioned in a mocking manner before he had a kunai hidden in his right sleeve fall as he then gripped it, ready for battle. So, you're the one who killed Orochimaru, huh? Let's see if you live up to your hype, Deidara said as he shoved his hands into his pouches. Sasuke unsheathed Kusanagi and rushed towards Naruto and Deidara. Deidara quickly leapt out of the way, while Naruto brought up his kunai in his sleeve, just in time to block Sasuke's horizontal strike to his neck. That was close. Sasuke, was that your best? Had it been Itachi attacking me, I probably would be a head shorter right now, Naruto taunted, which caused Sasuke to let out a small growl left as he pushed Naruto back a few inches. The two circled around each other before lunging again, with Naruto catching the wrist of Sasuke's blade hand and Sasuke catching Naruto's kunai hand. Naruto quickly ended the deadlock by pulling Sasuke towards him and kneeing him in the gut. Sasuke grunted in pain, causing him to release his grip on Naruto's hand, but not before he was caught the masked ninja with a hook to the face. Naruto and Sasuke quickly distanced themselves from each other and, after a brief standoff, Naruto closed the gap between himself and the Uchiha before he threw a mid-kick aimed at Sasuke's stomach, which the Uchiha was able to block. Sasuke then tried and cut Naruto's leg off with his sword, only for Naruto to counter the attack by bringing his other leg up and kicking Kusanagi out of Sasuke's hand. Having been disarmed by the masked Naruto and surprised by his opponent's level of skill, Sasuke, realizing that continuing to fighting hand-to-hand with this ninja would be suicide, leapt for his blade just as Naruto landed on his hands and flipped back to a standing position several yards away. Naruto then proceeded through another kunai, this one hidden in his left sleeve, at Sasuke's hand as he reached for the Kusanagi blade. "What's the matter, Sasuke? Too much of a coward to do this hand-to-hand?" Naruto asked as he popped his neck. Sasuke glared at Naruto before he charged at the masked Uzumaki, preparing to re-engage him, only to stop when he saw a spider that seemed to be made out of white clay appear right in front of him. Sasuke and Naruto, realizing what was happening, both away from the clay spider just as it exploded, with both of the teenagers successfully escaping the range of the resulting blast, though just barely. Sasuke skidded to a stop only moments before he saw several birds made of the same material as the spider flying right towards him. As Sasuke took evasive action, Naruto brushed himself off and glared at Deidara, who was now floating above the battlefield on a giant clay bird. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Deidara?" Naruto asked as the former Iwa nin began making more clay explosives. "What's it look like I'm doing? I'm facing Itachi's little brother, Deidara retorted, a bit of excitement clearly evident in his voice. "This is going too far, Deidara. Itachi made it clear that we're not allowed to kill him under any circumstances," Naruto reminded Deidara, only for the blonde bomber to scoff at his words. "Why should I care what Itachi says?" Deidara asked as one of his birds detonated after Sasuke hit it with a kunai before it could reach him. "He is Itachi's to finish, not yours," Naruto said, using an anger tone with every word he said. Deidara merely snarled at Naruto as he continued his explosive assault on Sasuke. Naruto grunted in annoyance and was about to stop Deidara's attack before he felt something wrap around his leg. He looked down to see that a clay centipede had grasped onto him. Naruto, knowing very well what was about, angrily looked back up to a now smug Deidara as the latter appeared to be waving goodbye. "You fool," Naruto said just as the centipede detonated, taking the clone with it. "But Naruto, Itachi and kiss him. And as such we need the other Jinchuriki like ourselves to change this world," Naruto said, having finished giving his explanation to Rashi and Han, the Yanbi and Gobi Jinchurikis, respectively. Ramshai had red hair, mustache and beard which tapered off to a point. He was wearing a large headpiece consisting of a three-pointed crown-like ridge, bearing both his Iwagakure forehead protector, a ring, and a prominent black piece of armor running across his cheeks and the bridge of his nose. He wore a long-sleeved light red shirt and pants, with mesh armor shirt and fitted black suit underneath, along with calf-length sandals. Around his waist he wore a brown sash that held a brown armor-like plate with a pouch in the front, a brown back plate on the back that is connected to the front with mesh armor, and armored lapels falling to the sides. Han was a very tall man who wore some sort of red armor with a furnace on the back that was emitting steam. He has light brown eyes, and his armor extends all the way to the bottom half of his face, covering it up. Underneath the armor covering the bottom half of his face, he wears a white cloth which also covers both sides of his face and the top of his head. Aside from his red armor, he also wears a red kasa over the white cloth, and it seems to be composed of the same material of his armor and furnace. He wears his Iwagakure forehead protector on a black cloth, and over his armor, Han wears a black guy, with the sleeves seemingly torn off and black gloves. He also wears what seems to be a bronze-colored ring around his neck which he wears over his red armor. The two Iwa nins were currently listening to Naruto's proposal to join the Akatsuki's cause for a new order. Just as he finished his explanation, Naruto gripped his head with his left hand as he received the memories of his shadow clone, which had dispersed only moments earlier. "Are you okay?" Itachi asked after taking notice of how Naruto had suddenly grasped his head. "Yes, I'm fine, the shadow clones I sent with Deidara just dispersed, however, and I just got some news that you need to know. It'll probably best if I tell you after we're done here." He turned to Han and Rashi, so now that you've heard our plans, what do you guys think? Are you willing to join us? Naruto asked, waiting for the two Iwanin carefully thought about his offer. After a few minutes Rashi finally turned to speak to Naruto. I'm not convinced. I know that you're the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, that much is certain, but this could all be roused just the same, Rashi replied, the aged ninja stroking his beard as he looked over the group. I'm not so sure about that, Rashi, these guys had the drop on us and could have captured us and killed us if they wanted to. Instead they approached us despite being well aware of the fact that we knew who they are. That said, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for now, Han pointed out to Rashi as he folded his arms. What would it take to convince you guys to join us? Itachi asked, wanting to take care of this business as soon as possible so he could go and find Sasuke. If you wish to earn my trust you have to prove that you're actually trying to help this world. There's a village, not far from here but far enough that it's over the border and therefore out of Iwa's protection, that is being terrorized by a cruel and vicious group of bandits. Go and help the villagers by dealing with their dilemma. And another thing. It has to be an act of charity, you cannot gain anything out of all of this. Do that and you'll have earned my trust, Rashi said as he locked eyes with each Akatsuki member. Well I guess we should get moving, then, Naruto said before he and his compatriot set off for this village. As the trio went to complete this seemingly simple task, the young Uzumaki was unaware of the turn of events that were about to transpire due to this fateful decision. But Naruto, Itachi and Kisame had just arrived at the outskirts of the village, as per Rashi's instructions. As Naruto and Ko made it through the forest Itachi decided to approach Naruto. So, Naruto, what was the news you had to tell me when we were speaking to Han and Rashi? Itachi asked as he noted the dark clouds hovering over the area. Naruto took a deep breath before he gave his answer. Madara and I ran into Sasuke after we managed to come into contact with Yagura and we decided to face him to see just how strong he's become. I was planning on fighting Sasuke hand to hand for a bit to see what he could do and then leave, but Madara decided to take it too far and was trying to kill him despite your warnings. I tried to stop Madara, but he was managed to destroy my clone before I could do anything. In short, your brother is currently facing the Mad Bomber, worst artist to ever live, Naruto said dejectedly as he felt a little responsible for putting Sasuke's life in grave danger. I see, Itachi said, the small amount of surprise he felt at hearing this news masked by his monotone voice. I know Sasuke will survive and face me once he's recovered from that battle. Madara is far too quick to anger and cannot keep himself calm whenever he fights. As long as Sasuke keeps a level head he will defeat Madara. Let's hope you're right because if he dies the sacrifices you made to protect him will have all been for nothing, Naruto said as he now turned his attention to the village Rashi had asked them to help. Upon entering the village, Naruto and Ko noticed immediately that the village suddenly had a hostile air about it. As walked down the village streets, Naruto saw that the clearly impoverished villagers were either looking away from them or were entering into a nearby shop as if to avoid them. When they made it to the center of the village, the Akatsuki members got a good look at some of the stores and noted that they were charging unreasonably high prices for their goods. Despite its small size, the village even had a brothel and casino that were clearly built within the last few months. Naruto got out of his train of thought, which was filled with disgust at the dreary sight all around him, when he noticed a thuggish-looking man with a sword walking his way. You guys should move of here if you know what's good for you. People who stay in this village longer than they need to tend to end up in pretty bad shape, especially if they're outsiders, the man said in a clearly threatening tone as he smirked at the trio. Oh, is that a threat? I guess that means that you're a member of the group that has taken over this town and now think that they own the place, correct? Naruto asked in a rhetorical tone. That's right. You got a problem with that? The thug asked as he got in Naruto's face. As a matter of fact I do, Naruto replied before proceeding to headbutt the man. The man reeled back and grabbed his face, leaving him open long enough for Naruto to unsheath his sword. Naruto then tripped the thug and stabbed him in the right shoulder just as he hit the ground, causing the man to scream out in pain. Now then, I think you should listen very carefully, Naruto said before he kneeled down beside the man, the young Uzumaki keeping a firm grip on the sword. I'm gonna take this blade out and when I do, I want you to go find your boss and tell him and the rest of his men to come to the square to deal with the guys who did this to you or we'll come find them and kill you all to the last piece of trash we find. Do you understand? The man nodded furiously in response, terrified of the masked Jinchuriki. Naruto then pulled the blade out at which point the man got up and made his way out of the village square. Naruto flicked the blood off his blade just as Itachi walked up to him. You just love causing a scene, don't you? Itachi said, slightly annoyed by Naruto's theatrics even if he didn't let it show, as Naruto rested the blade on his shoulder. If we're the hope of the people in this village they need to see the source of their misfortune and despair killed in front of them. If they see that a group of outsiders were willing to stand up to these scumbags and were able to kill them with their own eyes, they'll know that they don't have to fear them anymore and they will be able to move on. Besides, this is a great opportunity to gain a little public support for our cause, Naruto pointed out with a stern tone in his voice, keeping his eye on the direction the man ran in. So this is going to be a public execution. Chuckles, you'll get no complaint from me, Kisum said. His excitement and anticipation for the upcoming battle grew. A few minutes later, the man came back with a large group of mercenaries, around 100 men strong, in tow. The most noticeable of them was the man who walked at the head of the group. The man, who was clearly the leader of the thugs, wore a nice two-piece suit, carried 2 katanas on his hips, and had a crooked smile on his face. The group of thugs got closer and closer until they stopped when they got to within 20 feet of Naruto and co. So you're the guys who skewered poor Pei, huh? That was a big fucking mistake, no one messes with someone from my crew and lives to tell about it. You cocksucking do-gooders are gonna die here for trying to be bunch of heroes. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get this little show started? The leader asked as his men readied their weapons. Apparently news of the Akatsuki was slow to reach this village, as he was clearly unaware of who he was dealing with. Rather than taunting the leader as he would normally do, Naruto turned to look at the villagers who were watching the display unfold from the streets, shops, and from within behind the windows of their homes. To the good people of this village, your oppression ends now. After today this coward and his thugs will be nothing more than a bad memory, Naruto said in a dramatically charismatic voice, before he brought out a pair of kunai. Itachi stayed put for some unknown reason, while Kisum brought out Samehada. With a wave of his hand, the leader commanded his men to rush at the Akatsuki trio. Nearby, unbeknownst to Naruto and company, Team Guy, along with another team that was sent as backup to backup, was on their way to the very village they were helping. Alright, we're only a little ways from the village now. Lee, take these guys and do a little recon of the village. Find out what you can about the bandits that have taken over this town. Niji, Tenten and I will scout out the surrounding area to see if these men have any backup camp nearby. We'll meet back up here in an hour to discuss our next move. Understood. I said, to which everyone nodded in response. Right. Let's go and show these thugs our raging flames youth. The two groups then went off to their respective objectives. Lee and the support team made their way to the village outskirts on foot. As they reached a ridge just south of the village center, one of the members of the support team, a Leaf Chunin a few years older than Lee, got closer to the Taijutsu master. Lee-san, do you think these bandits are gonna be a lot of trouble? The young Chunin asked hesitantly. We won't know for sure until we're finished our recon, but I'm sure it's nothing we can't handle, Lee proclaimed confidently. The leader of bandits was horrified by the sight before him. All of his men had been slaughtered by the 3 of Akatsuki members, with small splatters of blood on their cloaks being the only damage done to them. The leader should have been running at this point, but the fear and shock of what he had witnessed still had left him paralyzed, freezing the thug to the spot. Naruto was the first to speak after tossing the sword he had stolen from the now dead Pei to the side. Well, that was boring as hell. Kisum, how many did you get? Naruto asked just as Kisum had finished counting the number of bodies he had slain. I dropped 26 of these guys, Kisum said before giving his casual grin. Ha! I killed 32 of them. Looks like I won this contest, Naruto said before Kisum grunted. Not quite, Naruto-san, Itachi said, catching the attention of his 2 comrades. My total stands at 42. HMPH, you would have that many with those eyes of yours, Naruto said as he folded his arms. You forget that I was an Anbu captain by the time I was 13. I have enough skill to have taken them all if had to, Itachi said, as if what he said came from a textbook. Yeah, we know. Guess that means that he's the only one left, Naruto said as he pointed his finger at the leader. At that point, the leader had finally come to his senses and tired to flee. Unfortunately for him, Naruto had attached a Fuma shuriken to some ninja wire and threw the large throwing star at the thug. The shuriken raced past the thug before Naruto used the wire to have the weapon spin around and ensnare the thug, with the wire now wrapped around his neck. Naruto pulled on the wire, stopping the leader in his tracks and pulling him back to Naruto. As soon as he was kneeling at Naruto's feet, Naruto took the wire off his neck and lifted him by his collar. Naruto then tossed the man toward the people who were now out of hiding. This scum is now powerless, you're all free from his control. My comrades and I must now take our leave, so before we depart please accept this lowlife as a parting gift, courtesy of the Akatsuki. Do with him whatever you see fit, Naruto said, bowing as if this were nothing but one big performance. The people looked at Naruto for a few seconds and then turned their attention to the thug before some of the men reached down, took the man by his arms and legs, and carried him out of the village as he kicked and screaming in vain. Naruto looked on at his and his comrades' success and amusement before the trio left to inform El Rashi and Han the results of their good deed. However, the moment Naruto and co. reached the village outskirts, they stopped in their tracks at the sight of the group across from them. Lee's group had just walked through the gate where they had stopped at the sight of the Akatsuki members in front of them. Lee took notice of Itachi and Kisum, but took extreme notice of Naruto. Lee-san, it's some of the Akatsuki. What do we do now? The nervous Chunin asked. Stay calm. You three should focus on fighting Itachi and kiss him. Try to use your numbers to your advantage and hold them off until Guy-sensei and the others arrive. I'll deal with the masked man, Lee said, getting a nod from the group around him, while Naruto, Itachi and Kisame were discussing a plan of their own. Doesn't look like we're gonna get out of here without a fight, Itachi said dully. Not seeing a downside to that, Kisame pointed out as he gripped Samehada tightly. Let's just clear them and get out of here. If Lee is here the rest of his team isn't going to be far behind, Naruto said before he was forced on the defensive by Lee, who used his speed to close the gap between them fairly quick. Itachi and Kisame were then ambushed by the group of Chunin, but were not fazed in the least by their efforts. Meanwhile, Lee continued to attack Naruto with punches and kicks, while Naruto blocked and countered every strike he could. Eventually the two separated and stared each other down. I've been training vigorously since the last time we've met. I know not to take you lightly and to give it everything I can, Lee said with a great deal of determination in his eyes. You should have done that the first time we met, Naruto taunted as rolled his shoulders around. Lee then proceeded to take off his leg weights and twos them, causing two massive craters to appear beside him. Naruto narrowed his eyes, as he knew what was coming. Naruto immediately lost sight of Lee, but soon found him as he was caught Naruto by surprise, with a right hook to the face. Naruto shook off the hit only for Lee to catch him again with another right hook. Naruto, having gotten caught off guard by Lee whose speed without the weights had increased almost tenfold from what he remembered, spun a little, only to be caught again with the uppercut, flinging his head back. Damn it, he's running around me, if I don't turn this around, I might have to use Kurama's chakra to deal with this, Naruto thought to himself. As he brought his head down and checked his chin, Lee performed a kick to the gut, followed by another kick to the chest. Naruto lost his breath from both of the kicks, these blows paled in comparison, however, for what was about to come. Lee built up even more speed and performed a flying kick to Naruto's face, and, when it connected, sent his still intact mask flying. Naruto sat up from the ground and looked up at Lee. What Naruto saw was an expression of shock on the face of Lee. Naruto grabbed his head and realized that his mask was no longer on. Oh fuck my bad luck, Naruto said, having quickly realized that Lee knew who he, or Menma to be more specific, really was. Lee's reaction to this sudden revelation was about what you would expect it to be. And then Naruto. You know, you can't be Naruto. It can't be. Naruto would never join the Akatsuki. Lee said, the Chunin in complete disbelief at the sight before him. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Lee. Believe me, I never thought I would be with them either. Then again, I am the most unpredictable ninja, remember? Naruto said, getting to his feet. Naturally Naruto's attempt to lighten the suddenly dark turn of events was to no avail. Even so, why do you work for the people who were trying hunt and kill you? It makes no sense, Lee said as he tried and failed to comprehend the situation. You wouldn't understand, Lee, and even if you did you'd only condemn me, so there's no point. He sighs, I'm sorry, Lee, but not that you've seen my true identity. I can't let you tell anyone. You've left me no choice but to take your life, Naruto sternly said. Despite the determination in his voice and the fact that he had been mentally preparing himself for the time he would have to take the lives of those Konoha ninjas that he once considered precious to him, he suddenly found himself shaking a little. Despite all that had happened, the young Uzumaki found himself to be a bit hesitant to do what needed to be done. We don't have to fight, Naruto. No one knows you were with the Akatsuki. You can leave now while you still have the chance and come, Lee pleaded as he tried to find a way to resolve the situation peaceably, briefly forgetting that Naruto had already killed at least one Leaf Ninja. Despite Lee's efforts, however, Naruto was not swayed in the slightest. And why should I do that? So the council can just banish me again, so that you guys can turn your backs on me like you did that day. I can't go back no matter what you try to say, Lee, and you know that. Naruto angrily yelled despite the fact that, thanks to Zetsu's constant spying on Konoha, he knew that Lee, unlike most of his other former friends, was one of the few, if not the only, one who tried to stand up for Naruto in his hour of need. Given that Lee's loyalties to the Leaf were much stronger than he beloved Hinata, however, Naruto knew that convincing Lee to defect was out of the question. Please, I don't want to fight you, Naruto, Lee said, desperately trying reason with Naruto, but to no avail. I'm sorry, Lee, but I'm not turning away from this. Now, let's end this battle already, Naruto said before he activated his Nine Tails chakra mode. Lee was taken by surprise by this form. Unfortunately for the Chunin, this gave Naruto an opening that he could take advantage of. Took it. Naruto suddenly appeared in front of Lee and landed a punch in Lee's gut, which sent him a good 60 feet away. Lee managed to get back on his feet in time to avoid Naruto's quick attack. The two shinobi then engaged each other in a battle of speed, with both teenagers moving so fast that if Itachi was watching this battle, even his Sharingan would not be able to keep up. The battle quickly spilled over into the village, with the villagers that realized that there was a battle going on within their village were unable to tell who had the upper hand, nor could they tell who the combatants even were, as the action was being waged all over the village itself, at speeds only the Yellow Flash himself could match. When the fierce battle did slow down, the two combatants stood once again across from each other. Unlike in the beginning of the battle, Lee was now in a very bad shape, his clothes were torn, his breathing was now heavy, and his left arm was now broken, and was now limp. While Naruto looked as though he was unfazed at his friend's condition, he was unexpectedly tearing himself apart on the inside. Maybe the suddenness of this turn of events caught him off guard, maybe the fact that Lee was the one he was going to kill today as opposed to one of other former friends was more jarring than he had expected, maybe it was both of these things put together, or maybe it had nothing to do with either of these sudden emotional conflicts, but for whatever reason, the knowledge what he was going to have to do was affecting Naruto a lot more than he thought it would, as if the Naruto was subconsciously trying to retain a sense of his old self. Lee charged once again, still able to move at very high speeds, and delivered another flying kick, but due to Lee's weakened state, Naruto was able to dodge the attack this time, and was able to grab Lee's the leg as well. Naruto began to slam Lee on the ground, using his leg to Naruto released the leg just as Lee yelled in pain. Knowing fully well that Lee was now unable to run anymore, Naruto decided to power down, since it was obvious Lee wasn't going to be running anytime soon. Grunting in pain, Lee forced himself on one leg, an action that earned him a sympathetic expression from Naruto, though it was a hollow gesture at best. Just stop, Lee. There's no need to drag this out, Naruto said with a surprisingly great deal of sadness in his voice, only for Lee to continuing limped his way toward him. I can't, Naruto-kun, you of all people know very well that, grunt, guys like us never give up, Lee said before using all of his remaining strength for one last dash, even as he was gritting his teeth in pain. Lee threw one final punch but, despite his valiant effort, Naruto merely sidestepped him. Naruto then grabbed Lee by his back, lifted him high above his head, and, despite an unfathomable amount of hesitation, drove his former friends back down into his knee. Naruto, knowing that this fight was over, lifted a dying Lee into his arm and gently lowered the ground to the ground as he gasped and wheezed in pain. As Naruto stood up, he now forced to witness the damage he had done and noticed something familiar about it. Naruto actually gasped and held his right hand over his mouth, his eyes briefly widening at the realization as to why this scene looked so familiar. It was the same damage Gaara had done to Lee during the Chunin preliminaries, the same damage that drove Naruto to find Tsunade so that she could heal Lee. Naruto, whose shock eventually subsided after a few minutes, now had a sorrowful look on his face, saddened by what he did. He kneeled down next to Lee and cradled his head so he could look at him just as a light drizzle began to fall from the clouds above. Cough, why, Naruto-kun, we were both failures, we both wanted to prove something to everyone, you and I were the same, so how did you turn out like this, Lee asked in a weak voice. I wish I know. Please know that I didn't choose to be your enemy, Lee, but I can't go back on what I've done. I have to see this through to the end, said Naruto, pulling out a kunai. At that point Naruto's entire body, from head to toe, was trembling in dread for what he was about to do as he said one last farewell to his former friend. I'm so sorry for everything. I do not ask, nor will I accept, your forgiveness. May you find eternal peace in the afterlife. Goodbye. Bushy brows. With a quick movement, Naruto finally plunged the kunai into Lee's throat, causing blood to come from his neck and mouth. Naruto watched as Lee's eyes closed shut and his last breath left his lungs. Naruto bowed his head and, after having a moment of silence for the fallen Chunin, laid Lee's back on the ground and got back on his feet. Naruto then walked over to his mask, placed it back onto his face, and, after he finally suppressed the feeling of dread growing inside him, went off to find Kisame and Itachi. He found them at 10 miles away, surrounded by the 3 corpses that were Lee's backup. We need to go. I'm sure Lee's other teammates will be here shortly with the commotion we made, Naruto said in a dull but measured tone. Did you take care of him? Itachi asked with an unusual bit of concern in his over. Despite Naruto's best efforts, Itachi could still tell that something about Naruto was off. What do you think? Naruto replied coldly as they left. Even with the mask, however, Itachi was able to catch a glimpse of a tear falling to the ground. An hour passed before Lee's teammates finally showed, having raced to the area when Neji saw through his Byakugan that Lee's chakra signature had suddenly vanished along with that of the support them. When they arrived, however, they were horrified to find Lee's body lying on the ground. Lee. They all yelled as they rushed towards his body. Upon reaching Lee's body, Guy dropped to his knees and held Lee's body, only to be shocked by how cold it felt. That's when it dawned on him that his student was no longer with them. No, it can't be, Lee's dead. He briefly pauses. Guy yelled in agony, with tears flowing down his eyes, overcome by grief at the loss of his beloved student. Tenten kneeled down next to him and started to sob along with her sensei. Neji stood looking over Lee's body, a wave of anger building up inside him as he tried to hold back his own tears. He saw some of the villagers coming around them and immediately began to question them on what had happened. None of the villagers knew since they were dealing with the bandit leader, and those who did notice the battle couldn't give the Leaf Jonin much in terms of details as it had so quickly, but the villagers did tell him that their village was freed by a trio of men in black cloaks with a red cloud pattern. At that point Neji realized who was responsible for this tragedy. The Akatsuki. Figures it was those bastards, Neji said as he gritted his tear-filled teeth in anger with his eyes having a look of rage to match. But why would they bother helping this village and not get anything in return? Tenten asked, rubbing Guy's back as he held Lee, even as she continued crying herself. It doesn't matter at this point. They took Hinata-sama. Kami knows what they've done with her, and now they've killed Lee as well. When we found out where those cowards are hiding, we're taking the fight to them, and when I find the one who did this to Lee, I'll make sure that he knows what hell feels before I kill him myself, said Neji sternly, silently promising to avenge Lee. Meanwhile, as the remaining members of Team Guy are discovering what had become of Lee, Naruto and Co. just made it back to Han and Rashi to inform them that their task was done. We have completed. Your village is cleared of their threat and can take care of themselves now, Itachi said, seeing Rashi nod in approval. Yes, we've already heard about it. We'll keep our end of the bargain and give you aid when you need it, Rashi said as he and Han shook hands with Itachi. We'll contact you when we're ready to make our move, until then I suggest that you head to the Land of Waves. Seek out a man named Tazuna in the town next to the Great Naruto Bridge and tell him that Naruto sent you as guest. He'll keep you sheltered until then, Itachi suggested, to which the Jinchuriki nodded. As Itachi headed for the exit, he and the Jinchuriki were inside a small stone adobe just to the north of Iwa. Kisum, who was waiting for his longtime partner, finally addressed him. So what should we do about Naruto? It looks like killing that odd blue beast student was more traumatic than we thought it would be, Kisum questioned, to which Itachi sighed. I think we should let out his grief for now. If he's still like this by the time we get back to AIM, then try to talk to him. Maybe you can snap him out of it, Itachi replied as he and Kisum stayed in the front porch of the adobe to protect themselves from the rain. Nearby, Naruto, on the other hand, apparently couldn't care less about the rain as he was standing atop a tall tree, his face left bare as he was currently wearing his mask. His head hung downwards as he couldn't bring himself to look up into the rain clouds. As the rain kept falling down, it began trickling down Naruto's face and mixed in with the large tears flowing from his eyes. For Naruto, the full realization of what he had done finally sunk in, and he had just committed his greatest sin and killed Lee. What have I done? And now distraught Naruto said himself as he placed his right hand to his face. Kami, what have I done? Lifeless. That word described how Naruto felt at this moment. Naruto, Itachi, and Kisum had made it through Aim's gates, and Naruto still wasn't himself. Every question or comment Itachi or Kisum made to get Naruto out of his depression was met with indifference or a short answer. Itachi was getting worried, though it wouldn't physically show. He knew that if Naruto wasn't pulled out of his current state, he might not be salvageable, and everything Naruto had worked for would be undone. As they climbed the stairs, Naruto kept his mask on to hide his pain. He didn't think about it, but it was almost like his was back when he was a genin. He was once again wearing a mask, literally this time, to hide how he truly felt underneath. However, this thought was the farthest thing from his mind, blocked by the image of his dead former friend. As they made it to the main room, Naruto glanced up and saw Nagato, Konan, and Hinata were conversing with one another. Hinata appeared tired, showing that she and Konan had just done some training. Hinata turned to see Naruto, Itachi and Kisum walk into the room. She smiled at her lover, but was met with a masked glance before Naruto walked over towards his room. That got Hinata worried. Naruto-kun. Called Hinata only for Naruto to ignore her as he walked down the hallway. What happened? Asked Nagato, when he also took note of the blonde's weird behavior. We found the Yonbi and Gobi Jinchuriki. We have their backing, but to get it we had to clear some bandits out of a local village. It was simple enough until, said Itachi, sighing before speaking again. Until we ran into some Konoha shinobi, one of them being Rock Lee, one of Naruto's old friends. Me and Kisum dealt with the 3 unknown shinobi, but Naruto fought Lee and killed him. Hinata gasped upon hearing the news. Lee was dead, and by Naruto's hand no less. She could only imagine what was going through his head. Baki's been like this ever since it happened, said Kisum, glancing at the direction Naruto left at. What should be done? We can't leave him like that, said Konan. As she had grown to actually befriend Naruto, she didn't like to see him in such a state. Maybe I should try to talk to him, said Hinata, but felt a hand on her shoulder, which, surprisingly, belonged to Kisum. You should probably let me handle it. I think I can get through to him, said Kisum, giving a small toothy grin to the Hyuga. Hinata nodded, albeit with clear reservations, before Kisum walked toward Naruto's room down the hallway. Is it a good idea to have him talk to Naruto-kun? Hinata asked the others. Itachi sighed again before speaking. Kisame was forced to kill many of his own comrades more times than any shinobi should ever have to before he joined us. As of right now he's probably the one who knows what Naruto is going through better than anyone, Itachi pointed out. The four shinobi now waited for the discussion to play out. But Naruto blocked out all noise as he walked into his room in aim. Closing his door, Naruto let a tired, weary sigh as he felt his shoulders slump over. He sat down at the foot of his bed and hung his head as he looked at the floor. His hand slowly reached up to remove his mask, revealing an emotionless face and red, swollen eyes, signs that Naruto had been crying. Naruto set his mask down on the bed and then ran his hands from his face through his hair. He then rested his arms on his legs. This is not how I thought this would go. Everything was so much easier when I ran this scenario through my head. But, seeing Lee die and knowing that it was done by my own hand, it wasn't nearly at all what I wanted. Kami, can I really lead a charge to my old home? I thought I was ready for the burden heart, but now I just don't know anymore, thought Naruto as he struggled with his inner thoughts. You can't be doubting yourself now, kid. I know that it's hard and it wasn't nearly what you expected, but now is not the time for self-pity. This group needs you focused and ready, or everything that we've been working on will be for nothing, said Kurama, trying to will his vessel back to life. Naruto heard his comrade's words and tried to in mind, but it wasn't enough to bring him back. Naruto could feel the sorrow rising back up when he heard his door open. He looked up to see Kisame shutting the door as he entered the room. I think we need to have a talk, said Kisame, as he leaned his back onto the nearest wall. You're going to give me a pep talk. This ought to be good, said Naruto looking back at his feet. I know, I'm not the type to talk to people about their problems, but just hear me out, said Kisame, while Naruto merely shrugged. When I was still in Kiri and hadn't taken Samehada yet, I was sent on a protection mission. The others I were with were carrying vital information that needed to be guarded at all cost. Everyone there pretty much treated me like an outcast. With my blue skin, sharp teeth and all. One girl offered for me to join them, but I declined, keeping focused on the mission at hand. Eventually, we were surrounded by enemy forces, and we knew that we couldn't hold them off. So, as the protection of this group I had two choices. Either I fight off the forces and possibly get killed, letting them take some of our group for interrogation and get the information, or I kill my comrades and keep the information out of enemy hands. Let me guess, you beat the odds and killed all the enemy, right? Asked Naruto, forcing a sarcastic tone into his voice. Nope. I killed every single member of my group, said Kisame, getting a shocked look from Naruto. You did? Asked Naruto, surprised that Kisame would have chosen that route, even the girl who was nice to you. Yes, even her, said Kisame, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. You see, Naruto, sometimes doing what needs to be done means you might have to cross some lines you're not prepared for. The pain will be there and it may stay for a long time, but if you learn to accept what's happened and press on, it does get better. The pain didn't last long with me because I knew it was the right move. When you choose a path like the one we have, your hands will be stained with the blood of those you once called comrades. That's just how things are in our line of work. I understand where you're coming from, kid. The people in that squad, they weren't the only people I once fought side by side that I then had to kill. It might be easy, it might not be, but if there's one guarantee it's that it's going to happen. That's just how it goes for us, wouldn't you agree? Heh, says the guy who enjoys any kind of slaughter, said Naruto, seeing Kisame chuckle at his words. You got me there, said Kisame, before looking at Naruto sympathetically. Like I said, I know what you're going through, but understand something. We need you, Gaki. You made all of this possible, but the job's not over yet. Harden your heart, get back on your feet, and know that you got a lot of people behind you. With that, Kisame got up and left Naruto alone with his thoughts. Naruto stared down at his hands, now open and palms up. Once again, Lee's body appeared in his mind. After about an hour or two of deep thinking and soul-searching, however, Naruto forced a memory to the far reaches of his mind, clenching his fist and closing his eyes. I'm sorry for what I did to you, Lee. You were a good friend, a strong ninja, and you stood up for me, for what was right, to the very end when not many people did. Your death was just a waste, a pointless, terrible waste. I won't forget the time we had as friends, but I have to move on, Naruto thought to himself, as he buried his feelings of remorse, buried it so deep that the image in his mind started to disappear. He wasn't forgetting the memory, but was now treating it like a causality of the conflict being waged. And, while he knew this might come to haunt him later on, he decided to use it as fuel for the flames of his hatred towards Konoha. If the council hadn't banished him, he wouldn't have been forced to kill Lee or any of his old friends. This was their mess, and when Naruto and the Akatsuki finally made it to Konoha, he would find the council after he and his comrades killed and or evacuated everyone else, bring them to a spot where they could see the destruction of the village, and tell them one thing before he killed them, with the flames of Konoha bursting into the sky behind him. This is your fault, this tragedy, and everything that led to it, was an end of your own creation. Know that before I damn you to hell for all eternity, said Naruto, opening his eyes. Naruto took a deep breath, having reset his mind and emotional state. He felt like his old self, maybe a little angrier than before he fought Lee, but still like his old self. He got off the bed to leave the room. Upon entering the main chamber, he was greeted by Hinata, Nagato, Konan, Itachi and Kisame looking at him. Hinata walked towards him, the concern showing in her eyes. "How are you?" asked Hinata, worry present in her voice. "I'm better. Still a little angry, but I'm doing alright," said Naruto, giving a reassuring smile. "It's good to see you back to normal," said Konan, smiling at the blonde. "Well, I'll be maybe Kisame has a soul after all if he managed to get you to listen," Nagato chided. "I wouldn't get your hopes up, Pain-sama," Kisame joked back. "Please, just call me Nagato." He turns to Naruto, "Anyways, I think you should take a couple of days off just to be sure you're ready for the next part of the plan," said Nagato, wanting Naruto to be sure that he was ready. "I appreciate it, but we still have much to do and I can't be on the sidelines," said Naruto, before everyone turned to see Zetsu coming into view. "I got some news. Sasuke's just defeated Deidara. At least he went out with a bang," White and Black Zetsu said, respectively. "Oh dear, we lost another one. That makes 3 losses. Good thing we got a new recruit and most of the Jinchuriki on our side or this could have been a problem." "So where is Sasuke?" Kisame said. "Sasuke managed to get himself out of the explosion's radius, but still needs to recuperate from the fighting. He is currently held up in a small house with 3 other people," said White Zetsu, while the group of 6 shared their shocked gazes amongst each other. Itachi looked at Nagato, and Nagato knew that look. "Itachi, we still," started Nagato, before Naruto interrupted. "We still haven't heard from Yujito about Kumo's involvement in our plans, until we get word from her, we'll have to wait to see what she and Killer Bee, the Hibichi Jinchuriki, will do. In the meantime, I can send a shadow clone with Kakuzu to locate the Utakata, the Rikubi Jinchuriki, and recruit him. Meanwhile, Itachi can finish his business with Sasuke, with me and Kisame providing backup. Sound good to everyone?" asked Naruto, looking around everyone. "Sigh very well. Itachi, go with Naruto and Kisame and finish up with your brother. Naruto, make sure you send that clone with Kakuzu and find the Rikubi." "Dismissed," said Nagato, leaving the group. "Hinata, we should continue your training. If we keep going at our current rate, you should be ready to fight by the time both Sasuke and Utakata have been dealt with," said Konan, getting a nod from Hinata before the Hyuga turned to face Naruto. "Be safe," said Hinata before kissing Naruto goodbye. Naruto smiled at her as she smiled back and left with Konan. Naruto turned around and looked at Itachi, who was giving a grateful smile, albeit a small one. "Thank you Naruto," said Itachi, while Naruto put his hand on Itachi's shoulder. "No problem. Anyways, I guess it's time for you to settle things with Sasuke," said Naruto, as he, Itachi and Kisame left once again, but this time to end a sibling dispute once and for all. Back in Konoha, Tsunade-sama, "My request has not changed," said Guy, with Neji and Tenten standing behind him. Ever since Team Guy had come back with Lee's body and given Tsunade the news of the Akatsuki, Guy had requested, no demanded, that Tsunade send him and his team after the Akatsuki to avenge Lee. Each time he received the same answer from Tsunade, that is to say she keeps denying their request, and each time he and his team were getting more livid with each refusal. As I've told you, I can't send you after the Akatsuki. We don't even know where their main base is located, and, even if we did, I'm not sure I would send you to their base," said Tsunade, understanding how upset Guy and his team were over Lee's death, but also knew that she couldn't risk them. "With all due respect, Tsunade-sama, I have more stake in this than just Lee. Hinata-sama is still being held captive with the Akatsuki. She's been with them too long, and if they kill Lee with no mercy, I fear what they'll do to her or what they've already done to her," said Neji, conviction showing in his face that he was not going to be deterred. "I understand that Neji and Hiashi has made it very clear he wants his daughter found as soon as possible. However, until Jiraiya comes back with some news about where they are, no one is going anywhere," said Tsunade, now starting to lose her patience with the group. "I was about to press the issue until Jiraiya entered the room via window. One look around the room and Jiraiya knew something was up. "Thank Kami," Tsunade muttered before speaking. "Jiraiya, please tell me you found something." "I'm close, my contacts finally have a solid lead. Given them a few more days and we'll have the exact location of the Akatsuki's base of operations," said Jiraiya, smiling at his teammate. "And when you find them, you're taking us with you," said Guy with his students nodding in agreement. I've already," Tsunade started when Jiraiya spoke up. I know you're angry and I'm really sorry about what happened to Lee, but I need to do recon on my own so no one else gets caught up in an ambush or the like," said Jiraiya, trying to defuse the determination. "You don't let us come with you, we'll just tail you and get there anyway." "It's that or taking us with you," said Tenten, with her teammates waiting for a decision. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade, who sighed in response while rubbing her temples. She knew no matter what they were going after the Akatsuki. Hell, she could suspend them from duty, but they would sneak out first chance and be off in an instant. With all that in mind, Tsunade looked at the trio. When Jireya's intel comes in with a location, go to the gate and wait for him there, and all four of you will go to the Akatsuki's base. You are dismissed, said Tsunade, as the trio bowed and departed from the room while Jiraiya looked at Tsunade. Are you sure about this? Asked Jiraiya, seeing his teammate laying back in her chair. No, but you and I both know that they would have gone no matter what the decision. Just keep them under control, said Tsunade, while Jiraiya smiled at his teammate. You got it. Well, might as well get something to eat while I'm here. You want to come? Said Jiraiya while he headed to the door. You know what, I think I'll join you on that, said Tsunade, getting up from her chair. Finally agreeing to go on that date with me? Asked Jiraiya, smiling at a now frowning Tsunade. Don't push it, Jiraiya, said Tsunade, who couldn't help but smile as Jiraiya chuckled at her reaction and left to grab dinner with her teammate, unaware that Lee's death with Hibi. Sasuke Uchiha was currently unwrapping the rest of his bandages, the wounds from his battle with Deidara, having just finished healing. It had been 4 days since the fight and Sasuke had just escaped death by the skin of his teeth. He had to resort to summoning Manda, putting him in a Jinjutsu with his Sharingan and hiding in his mouth. Manda died in the process, but Sasuke figured it was better Manda than him. His teammates, which could barely function as such without him around, were already packing up their personal supplies while he got dressed. They weren't the best of the best, but they were skilled in their own right and were good enough to help the young with his goals. Speaking of Sasuke's team, he could hear Karen and Sujetsu already having one of their regular arguments. Ignoring the migraine-inducing shenanigans of both Sujetsu and Karen, Sasuke pulled back the sliding door separating his room from his team's room. Upon entering, he noticed that Karen had just shoved Sujetsu out of the way so that she could be directly in front of Sasuke. How are your wounds, Sasuke-kun? Asked Karen, who spoke with her innocent voice. I'm back to full strength now. We need to move out, we're getting close, said Sasuke before picking up his kusanagi and making his way out of the small establishment. Sheesh, he's been lying on his back for 4 days and right when he feels better it's off we go, said Sujetsu, strapping his executioner's blade to his back. He must think that running into the Akatsuki like that is a sign that he's catching up to his brother, said Jugo as he followed Sasuke out through the door. Ugh, he's so stubborn, but that just makes him so much more attractive, said Karen, musing over Sasuke. Give it a break, Karen, said Sujetsu, who then ducked a punch directed at his head. Shut it, Sujetsu, yelled Karen while shaking her fist at the waterman. So what's the next move? Asked Jugo as the quartet moved back onto the road. We go to the next town and see if we can find any news about the Akatsuki. That bomber and masked man must have been in town around here and we can track them from there, said Sasuke, his mind focused on achieving his goal. I don't think tracking them is going to be a problem, said Sujetsu, getting everyone in the team's attention. Sasuke and the others looked in the direction Sujetsu was looking in. The sight that caught Sujetsu's notice was apparently an unwelcome one, as it was enough to earn a scowl from Sasuke. Sitting on a tree branch reading a book was Naruto, though he didn't know it just yet, masked and in Akatsuki garb. Did you enjoy your little game of bomb tag with Deidara? I apologize for that, but he tended to be a little overzealous with his art, as you could tell since he blew himself up, said Naruto, putting his book up. Sasuke simply continued scowling at the former Leaf Ninja for a bit before responding. If you are here looking to finish our fight, I promise it will go much differently, said Sasuke as he gripped his kusanagi. As much as I would love to actually have a rematch with you, if only to actually kick your ass, I'm afraid you need to stay in good shape for what's to come, said Naruto before hopping down from the branch. And what that? Asked Sasuke while narrowing his eyes at the masked man. The thing you've been after for nearly all your life, said Naruto, giving a mock bow. If you would follow me, I will lead you to your brother. After a few 10 seconds Naruto began to walk through the forest of trees while Sasuke and Ko followed him with their eyes. What do you think, Sasuke? Asked Karen. She got her answer when Sasuke started to follow Naruto into the forest. The walk to Itachi's location was quiet, seeing as how Naruto didn't have anything to say to Sasuke, at least nothing yet. They walked for 30 minutes before they came to Kisame. Beyond Kisame, Sasuke saw a compound of in the distance where he was assumed that Itachi was waiting for him. Kisame brought his sword down from his shoulder in front of Sasuke. Only Sasuke beyond this point, said Kisame, grinning the group as Naruto stood next to him. Sasuke glanced at his teammates, who all nodded to him as he proceeded to walk past Kisame. As Sasuke moved out of everyone's sight, Naruto rolled his neck and folded his arms. And now we play the waiting game, said Naruto, glancing over the new team Sasuke had. Nice to see you still alive, Kisame-senpai, said Sujetsu, getting a surprised look from Kisame. Do I know you? Asked Kisame, raising an eyebrow. You probably know my brother better since he came closest to joining the Seven Swordsmen, said Sujetsu, giving a toothy grin. Ho ho, I almost didn't recognize you, Sujetsu. Still as scrawny as the first time I met, said Kisum, returning the grin. And you're still as fish-like as before senpai, said Jetsu, chuckling at his former teacher's appearance. I see you got that kid's abuser's blade, but I bet you can't use it, said Kisum, as Sujetsu frowned at him. Care to see how good I am? Asked Sujetsu, gripping a hold of the executioner blade. You're trying to take on a shark, little fish, and you're going to be ripped apart, said Kisum, pointing Samehada at Sujetsu as the young swordsman lunged at him. As the two killers went on with their spar, Naruto walked over to Karen and Jugo, getting their attention. So, what's you guys' stories? Asked Naruto in a curious tone as he looked on at the two Odo shinobi. With Kakuzu and the Naruto clone. Kakuzu and Naruto's clone had been tracking the chakra signature of the Rakubi, being sealed inside one Utakata. Zetsu had been busy tracking down every rumor he could find and had gathered a hefty amount of information detailing who Utakata was and where he had been seen. None of this made Kakuzu's mood any better, however, since Naruto's mission pulled him away from his bounty hunting. The one thing he could say about Naruto was that he was way quieter than Haiden and not nearly as annoying. Even with those positives, however, this was cutting into earning money which, given Kakuzu's money-grubbing nature, wasn't going to be tolerated by the Akatsuki's self-proclaimed treasurer for much longer. Are we close yet? I wanna wrap this up so I can go back hunting, said Kakuzu, while Naruto merely kept his eyes forward. It shouldn't be too much longer, the signal's getting stronger, said Naruto, not bothering to respond to Kakuzu's other concern. Kakuzu merely grunted in response, but was brought out of his seething by the sight of bubbles suddenly appearing around them. Bubbles? Asked Kakuzu, as he reached out to touch one but was stopped when Naruto seized his hand. I don't think these are regular bubbles, especially since they just appeared out of nowhere, said Naruto as he took in the amount of bubbles surrounding him and Kakuzu. Naruto then narrowed his eyes to his right upon feeling Biju chakra coming their way. Out from the trees came a tall thin young man with pale golden eyes and brown hair that reaches to his shoulders, his bangs covered the left side of his face. He wore a long, light blue kimono adorned with a small emblem of 3 bubbles on the back and a pair of grey pants underneath, with an orange sash. The kimono hung loose, exposing his chest. In it, he carried a bamboo jug and in his hands he held a type of pipe. He looked between Naruto and Kakuzu. I'm assuming you're Utakata? Asked Naruto. Utakata merely nodded in the affirmative before responding. Indeed, and you're of the Akatsuki, I presume, said Utakata as he raised his free hand. Unfortunately, I'm aware of the reason you're here and I have no intention of being captured today, so how about you leave before I snap my fingers and finish this? Now, Utakata, would you really blow up a fellow Jinchuriki trying to make you an offer? Asked Naruto as he removed his mask to a surprised Utakata. He wasn't sure if this man was telling the truth until he heard the Rakubi's voice in his mind confirming Naruto's claim. Even with this confirmation, however, Utakata was naturally in disbelief. The Jinchuriki? In the Akatsuki? Questioned Utakata, trying to wrap his mind around the info in front of him before another piece of info came to his mind. And what is this offer? The Akatsuki has been recruiting the Jinchuriki, and we're working together to bring about a new order, since it's quite obvious the villagers here couldn't keep a peace if it would save them, said Naruto, not moving since the bubble minefield was still up. You'll get no argument from me, but what do I gain from this? More importantly, how can I trust you? Asked Utakata, eyeing Naruto carefully. If you don't want to join, that's fine. Clear your little minefield behind us so we can go, besides my partner is a little restless anyway, said Naruto, while Kakuzu glared at Naruto. Utakata looked at Naruto for a few seconds before all the bubbles popped simultaneous. He walked forward to Naruto. This operation of yours is going to be a tough one, isn't? Asked Utakata. It's gonna get pretty bloody. The villages aren't to go quietly, at least not the ones we know we can't strike a deal with. Kiri is gonna be hit too if that's what you're wondering, said Naruto, keeping his eyes on Utakata. I have no real hatred for my former village, said Utakata, stretching his back. But you're still hunted, aren't you? Do you know about Yagura? Asked Naruto, seeing Utakata raise an eyebrow at him. The former Mizukage. I heard he was dead, said Utakata, having only heard about the Mizukage. He's very much alive and has already agreed to help us in exchange for being Mizukage again. You join us and when we take Kiri he can call off the hunt on you. When all is said and done, you can leave a free man without any worry of being hunted by Kiri ever again, said Naruto, presenting his case to Utakata. Utakata thought over the offer before him. He didn't want to get involved with any conflicts, hell he just wanted to disappear, but he knew as long as Kiri still had it out for him, he couldn't fully vanish. He gave Naruto one final look before he extended his hand, which Naruto accepted and shook. What do you need from me? Asked Utakata, putting his pipe away. Right now we just need you to stay out of sight, said Naruto, pulling out a map for Utakata, head to Wave Country and ask for a man named Tazuna. When you get to his house, tell him Naruto sent you and you'll meet up with the other Jinchuriki. Understood, said Utakata before bowing, I look forward to working with you, Naruto-san. Utakata walked away leaving Naruto and Kakuzu to themselves. Naruto sighed before turning to face Kakuzu with grin. That wasn't so bad was it? Asked Naruto, still grinning at his glaring partner. Whatever, let's get out of here so I can make some profit, said Kakuzu, pulling out his own map and looking over it. We passed a city with a casino in it a while back, said Naruto, putting his arm around Kakuzu's shoulder. How about you let me use my luck and earn some good cash as a ways to make amends for sidetracking you so long? Kakuzu greedily smiled under his mask, now you're talking. You better not screw this up, Gaki. Have a little faith, Kakuzu. Who knows, maybe we could make enough to buy you a girlfriend, said Naruto, making fun of Kakuzu. Better to buy one than kidnap her, said Kakuzu, seeing Naruto got an angry look. Screw you. Yelled Naruto as they left the forested area. But Naruto, Kisame, and Hibi. So let me get this straight, said Naruto, as he sat in between Karen and Jugo. You're a censor and medic who used to work for Orochimaru, and you're the one who was the base for all of his curse marks that he made. Both Karen and Jugo nodded when he talked about their respective past. These curse mark experiments happen very often? Asked Naruto, looking up at the orange-haired giant. There were hundreds of individuals that were worked on and were kept in the same prison I was in, but when Sasuke came for my help he and his group killed the test subjects. The only other individuals now are me and Sasuke, said Jugo. Naruto nodded at this before turning to the red-headed Kunoichi. Karen, is it? Asked Naruto. Well, Karen nodded to him. You got any experiment stories of your own? Karen got nervous and started to fidget around. Eventually, she rolled up her right sleeve and revealed teeth marks on her arms. I can heal people who bite me. Orochimaru wanted to experiment with the ability and see if it could prolong his immortality jutsu longer than 3 years. It didn't improve it, so he instead put me in charge of a lair he had set up for other experiments. And now I'm here with Sasuke-kun, said Karen, though she kept a solemn face when talking about her past. Well, that's a pretty strange ability, but I could see how the snake bastard would be interested in it, said Naruto. So what's your story? How'd you end up in the Akatsuki? Karen asked. That's a very long story, one that'd be easier to explain when Sasuke and Itachi are done fighting each other, Naruto replied. Hugo narrowed his eyes when he noticed something felt off about the masked ninja. The way he spoke sounded as if the man had some history with both Sasuke and Orochimaru. Before he could question the ninja on this, however, his attention was redirected by the sight of the fight between Kisame and Suigetsu. Needless to say, it wasn't going well for Suigetsu. Ah, still just a kid it seems, said Kisame, resting Samehada on his shoulders. Ah, I nearly had you a few times, Kisame-senpai, said Suigetsu as he was on one knee and panting. Kisame was about to retort when he felt a presence coming from Itachi and Sasuke's battle. He looked out and saw what was obviously Itachi's Susanoo and was fighting a white 8-headed snake. Well, that's something you don't see every day, said Naruto, walking up to Kisame. You're going in? Asked Kisame as Naruto took his mask off. Yep, I told Itachi that I'd intervene once the fight neared its end and I meant it. Besides, something is wrong here. I don't know why, but something tells me that Sasuke didn't summon that thing on his own, said Naruto, seeing the giant serpents do battle with a ghostly warrior. The chakra feels too much like Orochimaru's for it to be Sasuke's own jutsu. Are you saying Sasuke-kun's in danger? Asked Karen in a worried tone. Maybe. You wanna find out? Asked Naruto, flashing a grin as he took off with Kisame. Team Hibi looked amongst themselves before following after Naruto while noting Naruto's actual appearance. But Itachi and Sasuke. Itachi was currently breathing in every breath like it was his last. He had been fighting Sasuke, his beloved brother, who had been harboring his hatred for Itachi for murdering the rest of their clan, as Itachi had wanted for him. Given his sudden change of heart in regards to his plans, however, Itachi had finally realized how his plan for Sasuke, despite its success, or more accurately because of it, had backfired miserable. His emotional attachment notwithstanding, it had been a hard battle for Itachi in terms of skill. Sasuke nearly had him with one big jutsu after the other, but Itachi had been able to counter every attack, if only barely. After Sasuke's last trump card, a giant dragon-shaped lightning bolt jutsu called Kirin, failed thanks to Itachi's activation of his Susanoo, Sasuke was left so exhausted that Orochimaru, whose power Sasuke had absorbed and whose conscience was suppressed up to that point, came back from the grave, took over Sasuke's body via the Uchiha's curse mark, and summoned his 8-headed serpent jutsu. After battling the serpent for a short while, he managed to seal Orochimaru into the sword of Totsuka, removing Sasuke's curse mark in the process. Now Itachi stood silent for a few moments past, staring down his equally drained brother, while he himself still had Susanoo active, before speaking to his little brother. This fight is over, Sasuke. You've really grown seeing as how you pushed me this far. I think it's time I showed you the truth, said Itachi as he walked towards his younger brother. Sasuke took one step back and took a fighting stance, wary of what Itachi was planning, before the elder of the Uchiha brothers started coughing. The coughing fit caused him to drop to one knee, and the break in concentration forced Susanoo to fall. Sasuke continued to look at his brother and saw blood leaking out of his hand that covered his mouth. Realizing his brother's now vulnerable situation, he was about to step forward when he saw a group coming toward him. The group revealed it to be his team, Kisame, and the last person he expected to see standing there in an Akatsuki's uniform. "Naruto?" Sasuke said as he looked at his former teammate with wide eyes trying to piece everything together. Sasuke's eyes settled on the mask in his hands and, after connecting the dots, the young Uchiha realized Naruto was the masked man he fought earlier. He was brought out of his mind by Naruto's voice. "It's been a long time, Sasuke. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but you'll have to wait a bit," Naruto said before the Uchiha could question him. The young blonde then turned to deal with Itachi. "Damn it, Itachi, your illness is acting up," said Naruto, kneeling next to the older Uchiha before he looked up at Karen. "You, let him bite you." After hearing about Karen's ability, Naruto realized it might be enough to finally heal Itachi of said ills and, given the situation, he needed that healing now. Sasuke had a confused on his face as Karen responded, but Sasuke. Isn't the one who just hocked up a half a pint of blood. You can heal Itachi, and Sasuke didn't sustain anything life-threatening. "Do it," yelled Naruto, releasing his chakra to get his command across. Despite her obsession with Sasuke, Karen realized that not complying with the Uzumaki's demand would be the equivalent of a death sentence at this point. Despite her reluctance, Karen walked towards Itachi. Sasuke was about to tell her to stop, but collapsed forward. He was caught by Naruto, who let out a sigh. "Sorry, Sasuke, but we need your brother alive, and after what he's done for me, I'm afraid this is as close as you'll ever get to your revenge. Besides, there's a lot of things me, you, and your brother need to talk about, so rest up." "You're gonna need it," said Naruto as Sujetsu came over to help support him. Sasuke looked on as Itachi was glowing green with healing chakra and looked between him and Naruto, who was walking over to see how Itachi was faring, as a few thoughts went through his head. "Why are you and Itachi on the same side? What the hell is going on? What happened to you, Naruto?" And then Sasuke's world went black as he drifted into unconsciousness, his questions unanswered for now. But Sasuke awoke in a bed of a room he'd never been in. He sat up and grimaced as he felt his side flare up in pain. He looked at his abdomen and saw it was bandaged up along with his shoulder. He glanced around the room and found the top half of his clothing, along with Kusanagi on a chair in the corner across from the door. He propped himself up, using his pillow underneath him. He sat there and began to think about everything that had happened in the last however long he had been out. He remembered his fight with his brother and how Itachi had him on the ropes until Itachi started to cough up blood and put himself into a weakened state. Sasuke then thought about killing Itachi while he was coughing, but then his teammates showed up with Kisame and Naruto. Naturally, that was the last person the young Uchiha was expecting to see defending his brother and working with the Akatsuki. Sasuke, having learned about their hunt for the Kyuubi and the other Biju during his time under Orochimaru's tutelage. In face, the last he heard, Naruto was banished from Konoha, something that even Sasuke thought was messed up and incredibly stupid, and, seeing as he was the one who tried to kill Naruto at the Valley of the End, that was saying something and had seemingly disappeared into thin air. Not even Orochimaru, who had developed some interest in the young Jinchuriki, was able to find a trace of Naruto, not even a possible lead to his whereabouts. Of greater concern to Sasuke, however, was that Naruto saved Itachi from death, denying Sasuke his revenge. This left Sasuke greatly confused. If it were anyone else, I would have already thought of them only as my enemy, an obstacle in my path that I need to eliminate, but why Naruto? Something's very wrong after the incident in that inn town a few years ago. He obviously knows about Itachi and the Akatsuki and that they're after him, I'm sure, and he would have certainly learned about what Itachi did to our clan by now. Yet he's joined their ranks and was willing to protect Itachi. Either Naruto has changed to a different entirely, or, if not, he just doesn't hold it against Itachi. If it's the first option, then he's my enemy and I'll kill him as I will Itachi, but if it's the latter, that could only mean that he knows something I don't. But what? Sasuke's musings were cut short when he heard the door to his room open. He looked up to see both Naruto and Itachi enter the room. The duo closed the door and stood in front of Sasuke's bed as the younger of the Uchiha brothers narrowed his eyes at them. "Either I've ended up in some opposite version of some world and I didn't realize it, or you have some explaining to do, Naruto," said Sasuke, who refused to verbally acknowledge his brother's presence. "I guess I do, though I'm not the only one," said Naruto rather nonchalantly. Itachi, meanwhile, still had his serious expression. "We'll tell you how Naruto got into the Akatsuki first. Also, you and I need to talk," said Itachi, while Sasuke shifted in his bed. "Seeing as how I'm still too weak to finish you off, I guess have no choice but to listen to you. You have one shot, Itachi, so you better make it count," said Sasuke, while Naruto brought a chair over and sat in it. "Well, I guess I should start before you two can go at it again. I'll keep my explanation as simple as I can. As I'm sure you know, I was banished from the village after bringing your sorry ass back, no offense. When I left I didn't really have a plan as of where to go, only a few ideas. Not too long after I left Konoha from the village I was ambushed by a group of Anbu from Konoha, but Itachi and Kisame found me and the two of them fought the Anbu. I could have taken the opportunity and ran for it, but I managed to come up with an idea and, the next thing you know, I ended up helping your brother and Kisame. After that, they took me to the Akatsuki leader and, after some persuasion, I became a member. Over the course of the next 2 to 3 years I was trained by them to be an effective member, and I have been with them ever since, said Naruto, seeing his friend process the information. You joining a mercenary organization isn't that much of a stretch after you got banished from Konoha, though I would have never imagined you as a member of the Akatsuki. That said, I need to know something. Why did you stop me from killing Itachi, Naruto? You do remember why I tried to join Orochimaru in the first place, right? Said Sasuke, glaring at his older brother. That's true, and, answer your first question, I have 2 reasons. 1, your brother still has a role to play in the Akatsuki and is somewhat of a mentor to me, so it'd be a shame to lose him. And second, you might reconsider your plans for revenge if you knew what really happened the night your parents were killed. You see, Itachi, how to put it, kept you in the dark about what really happened, something only he can really explain to you, said Naruto, while Sasuke narrowed his eyes even further. What do you mean I don't know everything that happened? He killed our entire clan. What more do I need to know? Said Sasuke, while Itachi averted his gaze. He did kill your clan, of that there's no doubt, but it was either that or something far worse, said Naruto, getting a confused look from Sasuke. What are you talking about? Asked Sasuke while Naruto looked over at Itachi before walking over to the door. Like I said, only Itachi can tell you, or, to be more precise, he's the only one who should tell you. I'll leave you two alone and brace yourself, Sasuke, because you're not going to like what you hear, said Naruto, exiting the room, leaving the 2 brothers to talk to themselves. Upon exiting the room, Naruto took a deep breath before letting his shoulders slump and exhaling. He felt like he had been going non-stop physically, mentally, and emotionally. Everything from killing Lee, picking himself back up, going after Sasuke and then having a close call with Itachi. As he started to walk around the building, he couldn't help but think about Itachi's health. He first noticed it about a year into being with the Akatsuki when Itachi started coughing in fits. It progressed as time went on, and only by giving Itachi the proper medicine was he able to continue his work. Karen had healed him, but only time would tell if it was a permanent cure or a temporary relief. Naruto shook his head from his thoughts in time to see Kisame and Suigetsu talking to each other. Is Sasuke awake yet? Asked Suigetsu as he and Kisame looked to Naruto. He's up, but Itachi and him are having a little heart-to-heart, said Naruto, seeing Suigetsu grunt in frustration. Damn it. Now I'm going to have to wait longer to find out what's next for us, said Suigetsu, who got a nudge from Kisame. Quit whining. Now's a good time to improve those rookie skills of yours, said Kisame, dragging Suigetsu by his collar while he struggled from his grasp. Hey Kisame, said Naruto, getting Kisame's attention, where's Hinata at? She's in the greenhouse, said Kisame, continuing to drag Suigetsu to a training room. Naruto started to walk down the other way towards the greenhouse that had been built into the hideout. It was mostly just to have a place for Konan to make medicine and for Sasori to make poisons from the plants, but it also could be used for personal amusement. Which is exactly what it looked like the Hyuga heiress was doing, tending to a bright lily. Naruto took the moment to smile at her as she hummed to herself in her work. He slowly walked up to her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Hinata giggled slightly as she recognized Naruto's arms around her. Enjoying the flowers? Asked Naruto, resting his chin on her shoulder. It's so peaceful. I used to do this back at the estate with Hanabi, said Hinata, looking down at the flower. You miss your family, said Naruto, looking at her sincerely. I do. They must all be worried about, even Hanabi, said Hinata. We'll get her out, Hinata. I made you a promise I would when we go to Konoha, said Naruto, trying to reassure her. Hinata said nothing as she hugged Naruto, which he returned while kissing her forehead. He knew her fears were warranted, since he knew all too well that Neji and Hiashi would not go do without a fight, especially when their village is finally attacked. Neji, in particular, would be impossible to persuade thanks to Lee's death. Naruto knew, no matter what he did, that his and Hinata's relationship would soon be put to the test. He had no idea just how soon. Elsewhere in Aim, on the rainy streets of Aim, a small frog made its way out of the small lake near Aim and onto a small walkway. Once it was sure it was alone on the street, it opened its mouth, which released 4 shinobi. Jiraiya surveyed the area alongside Team Guy as the rain fell down on them. Good, we weren't discovered, said Jiraiya as he looked around. There's also no one around for us to run into yet, said Neji, observing the area with his Byakugan. Are you sure the Akatsuki is here? Asked Tenten, looking toward Jiraiya. Positive. My sources have seen many Akatsuki coming in and out of this area and that they've been here for long periods of time in the past few weeks. "They're here somewhere," said Jiraiya. "Then let's start looking, quickly and quietly until we find them," said Guy, getting a nod from everyone involved as they walked into the village. Meanwhile, Nagato stood on the ledge of his tower, looking over a megacur. He was watching over his village as a protecting god should, making sure no harm would come to his people. He even went so far as to use the bleak weather to this end, using the rain that fell down on AIM as a monitoring system of sorts, registering everyone in AIM so as to be protected, and all went as it normally should. It was with this rain-based security that he detected something strange in the rain. 4 new signatures that appeared out of nowhere. 3 of the signatures were unknown to him, but the 4th was familiar. It was an old chakra that he hadn't felt or been near in a very long time. He narrowed his eyes on the signatures while Conan came into his chambers. "Is something wrong?" asked Conan, seeing her friend look out onto the village. "Our old sensei has decided to visit," said Nagato. Though he didn't see it, he could sense the Conan looking at him with some shock. "Jiraiya sensei is here. Is he alone?" she asked, standing next to Nagato. "No. He's with 3 other people whose chakra I don't recognize. It's more than likely they are Konoha shinobi," said Nagato, following where the signatures were heading. "Which means that they're trying to find us. Do you think that this may have something to do with Naruto killing that Konoha shinobi?" said Conan, while Nagato turned to look at her. "It's possible. That said, we can't risk them finding us and reporting back to Konoha with a larger force. We are not ready for that, and they if want to drive us out it'll undo all our work and our village will get caught in the crossfire," said Nagato, making his point clear to Conan. "Should I bring any backup?" asked Conan. "Kisame and Naruto," said Nagato quickly. "Are you sure about that?" "I mean, given Naruto's emotional state, it's a great risk," said Conan, the Kunoichi being unsure of how Naruto would deal with this after having just gotten over one killing Lee. "I know you mean well, Conan, and if there was any other option I would take it, but Kakuzu is still out searching for the Rikubi Jinchuriki, Itachi is in no shape for a fight, Hinata isn't ready to fight Konoha, and I don't quite trust any of Sasuke's associates. If it were just Jiraiya sensei the 2 of us would be enough, but given the strength of Jiraiya's backup, we need both Kisame and Naruto," said Nagato, with Conan nodded slightly in response before she and Nagato left to find Kisame and Naruto. But Naruto, speaking of Naruto, he was leaning against one of the walls of the greenhouse while Hinata went back to tending to some of the flowers. As he pondered how he would deal with the other Hyugas, minus Hanabi whom he had promised to spare, he suddenly heard footsteps approaching the building. He and Hinata looked to see Nagato, Conan, and Kisame waiting in the door. "What's going on?" asked Naruto as Hinata let go of a flower. "We've got company, Gaki. 4 Konoha shinobi, including Jiraiya, were just spotted somewhere in the village," said Kisame, shocking both former Konohinin. "How'd they find us?" asked Naruto, while Hinata activated her Byakugan to see who among the Konoha shinobi had come to AIM. "We're not sure, but we have to eliminate them now," said Nagato, getting a nod from Naruto before hearing gasp from Hinata. "What is it?" asked Naruto, while Hinata frightfully turned to face Naruto. "It's Guy Sensei's team," she told Naruto shakily, while Naruto looked down. "Damn it, I knew this would happen. They're definitely here to take revenge for what I did to Lee, not that I blame them," said Naruto sorrowfully. "Regardless, we have to deal with them," said Nagato, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. "I would let someone else come with us, but there's no one else I can call on." "I understand," said Naruto before taking a deep breath. "Let's go." "Naruto-kun," said Hinata, making Naruto turn around at her. "What'll happen to Neji?" Naruto looked at her face, his expression showing just how fearful she of what was to be her cousin's fate. He, with a great deal of regret, didn't say anything as he picked up his mask before turning around to leave with the other 3 Akatsuki members. After they left, Hinata said a silent prayer for the coming confrontation. But Jiraiya and Team Guy had been going around the village for any clues as to where the Akatsuki members were, but so far had come out nothing. They eventually came to a small walkway over a large body of water with enclosed wall spacing that extending for 50 feet high. Jiraiya held his hand up, stopping the group. "What's wrong, Jiraiya?" asked Guy as he and his team looked to the Sannin. "We've been spotted," said Jiraiya, just as 4 people came out of hiding. "Indeed you have," said Nagato, standing next to Kisame, Conan, and Naruto wearing his mask. "It's been a long time, Jiraiya-sensei." "Nagato? Conan? You're alive?" asked Jiraiya in a surprised voice which took Team Guy by surprise as well. "Yes," said Nagato, while the others got ready. "Unfortunately, this reunion will not last long." "Wait a minute, Jiraiya-sanin, you know those 2? Tenten asked. "Yes," he turns to Nagato and Conan, "it seems that the 2 of you have strayed from the path of good. What happened to you? And what happened to Yahiko?" Jiraiya asked, the Sannin having regained his wits and realizing the gravity of the situation. "Yahiko is dead, he was killed like so many of our dear comrades. But that's all I'll tell you, outsider, since you and your comrades have marked yourselves for death the moment you set foot in this village. This ends here and now, sensei, Nagato said, as the former students of Jiraiya prepared to fight him, even as the Sannin was unaware that his last surviving was standing there as well, hidden behind a mask. This ends here and now, sensei, Nagato said, as he and the other Akatsuki members stood across the Konoha shinobi. Niji, is it just them or is there more here? Asked Jiraiya softly. I'm not seeing any others nearby. I also don't see Hinata-sama anywhere, said Niji glancing around the surrounding area. Out of curiosity, why are you here sensei? Asked Conan, looking on the group. Originally I'm here just to gather intelligence on you and where Hinata is, but these three are here for a different reason, said Jiraiya motioning to Team Guy. Here for your student, Green Beast? Asked Kisum with a toothy grin which angered Guy. His name was Lee, and by the flames of youth, he will be avenged. Yelled Guy, eyes ablaze. You and he both know the risk of being shinobi, said Naruto, death is a natural part of the shinobi way. The response Naruto got from the Konoha nin slightly surprised him. It was you, wasn't it? Asked Niji, narrowing his eyes. What? Asked Naruto looking at the Hyuga. You're the one who killed Lee. You've killed Ichiro and you were the one who kidnapped Hinata-sama. You've been the cause of a lot of problems, what's one more to the list, accused Niji, glaring a hole into Naruto's head. You Konoha shinobi are weak. It's why I was able to kidnap the Hyuga and how I was able to kill that Ichiro and your teammate. You don't have a hope of standing against us, said Naruto, riling up Team Guy. You're gonna pay for your crimes, you masked monster, said Tenten, reading her weapon. You want your revenge? Asked Naruto, taking his stance, then come and take it. Before Jiraiya could possibly defuse the situation, Guy charged at Naruto with the intent of tearing through Naruto, but was intercepted by Kisum. Kisum used Samehada to block Guy's kick and shoved him off the side of the railing and leapt after him down to the water below. Die! Yelled Jiraiya as he jumped on the railing to go after him. Not so fast, sensei, said Nagato as he summoned a bird and Conan former origami wings and intercept Jiraiya. Jiraiya leapt out of the way of Conan, but failed to avoid Nagato as he was knocked into an open pipe. Jiraiya looked out into to see Conan sending multiple paper shuriken, forcing Jiraiya to run out of the pipe to a different section of aim. Naruto looked over to see Nagato and Conan pursue Jiraiya before focusing back on Niji and Tenten, the latter of whom had summoned a windmill shuriken in her hand, while Niji reactivating his Byakugan. This is the end for you, said Niji, as he and Tenten charged at Naruto. Not likely thought Naruto, drawing two kunais and readying himself for the duo of Team Guy. But Jiraiya, Nagato, and Conan. Jiraiya managed to get out of the pipe tunnel in time to avoid the paper shuriken from turning him into a pincushion. He landed in another slightly submerged platform surrounded by 4 steel walls and an opening at the top. He heard the rattling of paper and saw all the sheets he had dodged in the tunnel, reforming back into Conan. Jiraiya looked at her before seeing Nagato descend from the opening in the top, stopping next to Conan. We take no pleasure in fighting you, sensei, said Conan, as she and Nagato stood on the opposite side of the platform. Why not join us? With you and our group we can bring the world into balance. You want to achieve balance by taking Jinchuriki and using them in some weapon to terrorize the shinobi world with. I've done my research and I don't want any part of it, said Jiraiya, unaware of the changes in the Akatsuki's plans, before re-engaging Nagato. Nagato intercepted Jiraiya with an attempted right punch, but Jiraiya sidestepped and proceeded to attempt a punch of his own. Nagato countered by catching Jiraiya's fist and throwing him over his shoulder, with Jiraiya landing on his feet and attempting a head kick, only to find himself avoiding a horde of paper bombs. The shinobi had their chance for peace, but still they choose to scheme against each other and cause suffering. Is it wrong that I want to end that through the one way they will listen? Asked Nagato as Jiraiya dodged the last of the paper bombs. This is not the answer to true peace. The villages must have understanding in order to coexist completely, said Jiraiya, as he catched his breath. Maybe, but that day will never come, so our option is the only one. If you will not help us, then you will not live to see if you are right, said Nagato, using the Asura path to sprout 2 extra arms. Nagato charged at Jiraiya, bombarding him with a 4-arm attack barrage. Jiraiya struggled to block the unusual amount of hands coming at him at an explosive rate. The Toad Sage was then forced back by a sudden strike to the gut and head by Nagato's 2 right arms. Jiraiya flew through one of the walls in their 4-cornered area. Nagato stared at the hole as several razor-sharp sheets of paper flew into the hole, shredding everything inside. Nagato reverted back to normal as Conan landed next to him. Suddenly, a giant toad appeared out of the wall, forcing the AIM duo to flee back to avoid the debris falling down on them. Nagato and Conan stared up at the giant dark red toad, with black markings on his face, arms, and legs with horn-like protrusions on his head. He wore a black kimono with a white sash and mesh armor underneath. He held a type of shield along with a pitchfork weapon. On top of his head was Jiraiya, but his red marks were now broader, and his face was not more toad-like in appearance with slit eyes, large nose, sharp teeth and warts covering his face. On his shoulders were 2 small frogs. Jiraiya-kun, you summoned us just as dinner was finished, yelled Ma, sitting on his right shoulder. Sorry Ma, but I need you both for this fight, said Jiraiya, keeping his eyes focused on his two students. Very well, let us deal with these two, said Pa, as Gamaken shifted his stance. Your toads won't save you, Jiraiya-sensei, said Nagato, as he summoned a giant brown dog covered in piercings. You were going to die the minute you stepped foot into aim with Konoha Shinobi. I admit that I didn't expect you here, Nagato, and it is not my wish to fight you. However, you threaten too many people, and I can't let you do as you please. Yelled Jiraiya as he and Gamaken launched themselves at Nagato and Konan. With Guy and Kisame tumbled down to the water below, trading blows as they fell. They eventually pushed away from each other as they landed on top of the water. Guy assumed his stance as Kisame rested Samehada on his shoulder. Finally, we get to finish our fight back when we took the Ichibi, said Kisame with a grin, but was not returned by Guy. It will go much differently this time. Before I would have reveled in the prospect of fighting you one-on-one, but you had a hand in the killing of my pupil. Now, I will come at you with all my youth. Yelled Guy as he crossed his arms over his chest, fourth gate. Open. Tuckles, that's it. Make yourself a fine feast for Samehada. Said Kisame, who was forced to block a punch directed at him with Samehada. Kisame pushes Guy back with a shove from Samehada. Guy backflips and lands on the water, only to disappear as soon as he lands. Kisame barely manages to duck as a Guy sends a roundhouse kick to his head. Kisame then quickly brings up Samehada to try and strike at Guy. Guy ducked and then proceeded to sweep Kisame's legs from under him, but managed to land a hand on the water and leapt away from Guy. Kisame didn't have long to recover as Guy came right back at him, green chakra covering the youthful man. Kisame gave Samehada a firm squeeze, the blade reacting by shredding the wrappings that held it together, revealing its huge body and its mouth. Guy rushed Kisame again, but his fist was met with Samehada's mouth, biting into the youthful man. Guy grunted as he felt the teeth sink into his hand. Kisame then threw his captured enemy into the air. Kisame took the opportunity to form hand seals. Suiton. Water bullet. Yelled Kisame, firing 3 shots at the green-clad shinobi. You'll have to do better than that. Yelled Guy as he jumped off of each shot, propelling him towards Kisame at a fast rate before slugging him in the face with a left punch. Kisame sunk down past the surface of the water before disappearing into the abyss. Guy stood on top of the water, looking around the pitch-black water to try and find his opponent. Guy then saw Kisame's Akatsuki cloak float to the surface. Guy looked around again and then saw a figure racing at him fast from below the water. Guy didn't time to react as he was caught by his foot and dragged into the water. He held his breath as he looked around for what dragged him below, but was then hit by a fast-moving object. He looked around again, but was then attacked from the other side. This pattern kept up until Guy finally managed to propel himself to the surface. He looked around and kept his guard up. Then, out of the water he saw Kisame, but he looked a lot more shark-like with fins and his hair gone. He chuckled as he floated in the water. You made the mistake of fighting me in my natural habitat. You may be fast, but you can't keep up with me underwater, said Kisame, while seeing Guy grimace. On land or water, you cannot escape the power of my youth. Said Guy, releasing more energy and assuming his crossed arm stance. 6th gate. Open. Then let's see how much youth it will take to have a shot against me. Yelled Kisame as the two charged at each other for another round. With Naruto, Neji, and Tenten. Naruto dodged another palm strike from Neji, which he then attempted to counter with a stab from his kunai. Neji deflected the blow to the left before attempting to strike again, but Naruto rolled out of the way of the strike. He didn't have a chance to attack back as he had to dodge several kunai and shuriken being flung at him. Naruto blocked all of them with both of his kuani and grimaced as he looked at Tenten, a scowl on her face. As Naruto deflected the last kunai, he made a step to attack Tenten, but was stopped when Neji re-engaged him in Taijutsu. So Neji is going to keep me distracted with Taijutsu, and Tenten will provide backup to him from a distance. You got to admit they're doing much better than last time, thought Naruto, while the Kurama grunted in agreement. Indeed, but you should be able to deal with them all the same. Well, at least Tenten you can deal with. Speaking of which, what's your plan for Neji? Asked Kurama, while Naruto sighed to himself while dodging another strike from Neji before throwing a right jab. Still haven't figured that out, huh? Thought Naruto while throwing a kunai Tenten just as she prepared to throw another barrage of weapons. Naruto then took the opportunity to heel kick Neji, which Neji ducked before attempting to palm strike Naruto's leg. Naruto crouched down and seized Neji's hand and promptly threw him to the other side of the walkway, having Naruto be in the center of Neji and Tenten. This is getting rather boring. You Konoha shinobi seem to constantly stick your nose in our business when it's least convenient, said Naruto, his masked head looking back and forth between the two. You Akatsuki are criminals and murderers. Good people are going to stop you any way they can, including us. Said Tenten, summoning 2 demon windmill shuriken. Good people. Chuckles, would good people kick out one of their own for doing his job and leaving him defenseless? Asked Naruto, seeing the slightly confused faces on the two shinobi. What are you talking about? Asked Neji, who couldn't see the scowl on Naruto's face but decided to continue his charade. You don't remember him? I thought he'd have been unforgettable with all that blonde hair, said Naruto, now smirking at the shocked faces. Why you mean Naruto? What happened to him? Demanded Neji, getting angry again. We're the Akatsuki, what do you think happened? Said Naruto nonchalantly. No, it can't be you mean he's, said Tenten shakily. Ed. Seems you Konoha shinobi didn't really care for him since you kicked him out and practically gift-wrapped him for us. Hell, you guys came here to avenge your teammate, but we've had the Hyuga girl for quite some time now and haven't even bothered to come for her, said Naruto, seeing Neji see that every word. Naruto then decided to push the shinobi's buttons even further. That said, the brat prevented us from acquiring the Kyuubi. He fought me tooth and nail against me, and you know the strange thing about it. In spite of all the bullshit you did to him, he still fought to protect you guys as much as he was protecting himself, going on about how he'd find a way to return to Konoha and become Hokage and such. Of course, when he realized that was impossible, he decided to die and take me out with him. He failed, of course, but I have more respect for him for standing by you backstabbers than even my fellow comrades. Of course, he'll soon have company in the afterlife once you and the Hyuga girl join him. I might even take her eyes for my own. At that point, Neji snapped. You bastard. You'll pay for what you've done. Roared Neji, rushing at his foe intending to crush him. Only you can beat me, taunted Naruto before blocking Neji's first attack effortlessly. And that's as good as impossible. Stated Naruto, bracing himself for his battle with both Neji and Tenten. And that, Sasuke, is the truth of our clan's massacre, said Itachi, having finished the tale of everything leading up to their clan's extinction. Sasuke had a look of complete shock, confusion, and horror placed on his face. Turns out, everything he thought he knew about the destruction of his clan was nothing but a lie. As it turns out, the only part he had right was that Itachi killed everyone. Everything involving the reason behind the massacre, on the other hand, was a complete shock to him. As explained by Itachi, after the Kyuubi incident, there was speculation that the Kyuubi could have been influenced by the Sharingan to attack the village. This caused the rest of the village to become very suspicious of the entire clan. This suspicion began to affect relationships between the village and the Uchiha for the worse, especially when the Uchiha had been forced to relocate to a special section within the village. Itachi was instructed by their father to spy on Konoha and feed intel to the clan, his position as an Anbu Black Ops. However, the Sandaime Hokage also entrusted Itachi with spying on the Uchiha clan for the village. Itachi initially decided to spy for the village, choosing the safety of the village over his clan. The Sandaime was confident that a peaceful solution could be met, but Itachi saw the writing on the wall. The Uchiha were not interested in simply making peace and were plotting to take the village over. Itachi could foresee all the destruction that this would cause. First a civil war would break out between He village and the Uchiha, then after the dust settled the surrounding villages would attack the village and would more than likely bring about the end of whoever survived the conflict. This revelation began to appear clear to the Sandaime as well and asked Itachi to be the man to eliminate his clan. Itachi was conflicted on this decision. Could he really bring about the destruction of his clan, his family? He was then approached by Danzo, would asked him if he would be the martyr to protect everyone in the village or would he be a bystander and allow the village to destroy itself. Itachi finally decided he would destroy the clan, but not before begging the Sandaime to allow him to spare Sasuke's life. With the approval of Hiruzen, Itachi began his massacre of the entire Uchiha clan. The massacre ended at his own house, where with tears in his eyes, he cut down his mother and father. After that, Sasuke showed up and knew the rest of the story of that night. Itachi ended his tale with finding the Akatsuki and being Konoha's inside man in the organization. That is until Naruto was betrayed and joined the Akatsuki. Upon learning about this, Itachi realized that Konoha had crossed a line it could never uncross and was something Itachi could never forgive. At that point he severed his allegiance to Konoha and, with nothing else to turn back to, became fully loyal to Naruto and the Akatsuki's mission. Sasuke finally put his hands to hold his head trying to nurse the absolute headache he had as he tried to comprehend it all. Everything I thought I knew about the destruction of our clan just a false story. Why didn't you tell me? Asked Sasuke as he gripped his head. My initial intention was to have you and I to have a showdown where you would kill me and keep the Uchiha name in good standing as the hero who slayed the man who killed his own clan. But my plan turned horrid. You left the village, even with being brought back you still made it to Orochimaru, turned on your friends in your pursuit of revenge against me. Even through all this I still planned to fall to you in the end. Naruto, however, convinced me otherwise. He made me realize that I still have things to do in this organization, that there was a real peace to be fought for here. Needless to say, I decided to trust Naruto and changed my plan to fight you to a standstill, and Naruto would come in at the end and take us back to base. And so, here we are, said Itachi, standing now on Sasuke's right side. What now? Killing you was my drive, my goal. Now that I know the truth, killing you doesn't feel right when it was an order from the very village I was supposed to trust. I can't go back. I wouldn't feel right knowing what I know now, said Sasuke, looking up at his brother with hopelessness in his eyes. I cannot decide what you should do, Sasuke. Kami knows I tried to direct you on your path, but I turned you down a dark path. I know you're confused, Sasuke, but I still have faith that my little brother can figure out his own path, said Itachi, actually smiling at Sasuke, a smile that Sasuke had not seen in years. As Sasuke was about to respond to his brother's confidence in him, there felt a shake in the building. What the hell was that? Asked Sasuke looking around his room. Sounds like we have company. Stay here, I'm going to go see if I can help, said Itachi, making his way out of the room. You're still recuperating like me. You can't be too much help out there, said Sasuke, stating his case.